Wait, hold on, my mic is super low. Alright. I think people should be able to hear me okay now. Y'all hear me good? My voice should be up. Hi, everyone. How's everybody doing? Let me grab a pillow. Pillow. Pillow to sit with. Hi, you woke me up, Humana. Hi, everybody. Am I out of focus? I am. Hello? Oh, I don't have my glasses. That feels like something I should have. Why am I out of focus? There we go. That's better. That is a little bit better. Here, wait. My lighting is a little bit off right now. It's so weird. It's very hot today. You like the fit? Thanks. It's called Maya Wears Tank Top because it's too freaking hot outside. I might cry. That's what. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Hello. Today we finished Percy Jackson. I'm gonna read you the rest of the book. Yeah. I'm sorry, Maya. I'm watching another streamer. It's fine. Just leave then. My gosh. We're gonna read the rest of the book. Bedtime stories. It's a lot of pages. I think this might be the longest reading stream we've had so far, but I'm gonna try and take my time to go through it. Where'd you get the fit from? Urban Outfitters. Literally, where else do I shop? Yeah. You like my cushion? This is my corn pillow. I am a big fan of it. I was watching Selling Sunset, which is a new reality show that was on Netflix. So I'm just kind of like talking until some more people filter in and then I can start. Yeah. I have 70k miles. Can I exchange them for channel points? No. Oh yes, I'll give you a recap. Thank you, James, for the idea. So last time on Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, what happened? So where did we start? We started on chapter 11. We read through 7 chapters last time, which was a lot more than we intended to do. In chapter 11, it started out by Percy, Annabeth, and Grover embarking on their quest. And so, basically, they have to go retrieve the lightning bolts. This is original lightning bolt, which they believe has been stolen by Hades. And the entry to the underworld is in downtown LA. Yeah. So, downtown LA. And then they basically left and they came across a statuary garden, which seemed to be pretty normal, pretty okay, run by this lady named Auntie M. Psych, turns out that was Medusa, and so Medusa tries to take a photo of them before they realize who she is by unveiling herself and looking at them into the eyes. And so, no spoilers for what comes after what we've read. I'm giving you a recap of the previous chapters. It's like a Netflix recap, except it's shittier. So basically, Medusa was beheaded by Percy, and they ended up being okay. Percy sent the head of Medusa to Olympus, Mount Olympus, so that way he could be like, "What's up, Zeus? I fucking did it. What's up, Dad? I fucking did that." And so, that's kind of what happened in that chapter. After leaving the garden, they conveniently found a poodle worth $200 and got a ticket towards Denver, Colorado. And so, yes, they were on their way to Denver, but then they got, like, stuck in Kansas, I think, somehow. Or, I don't know. Some city with a D at the beginning. Thank you, System Checks, for gifting subs to people. Oh my goodness. Gladolia is the poodle's name. They basically ran into Ares at a diner. And Ares basically told them that they needed to go to this abandoned carnival because he went on a date with Aphrodite. And Hephaestus, who's Aphrodite's husband, was like, fuck nah. And then tried to trap Ares and Aphrodite inside of the love boat ride, but Ares left his shield there when they were trying to flee the scene, and so he told Percy that he had to do it instead. Thank you, Riley, for sharing some bits. And so Percy, Annabeth, and Grover went down there and were broadcasted to Mount Olympus because that was supposed to catch Ares and Aphrodite cheating with each other. But instead, it caught Percy and Annabeth trying to retrieve a shield. They got out okay. Ares let them hop onto a bus transporting exotic animals to Las Vegas. So they went to Las Vegas, freed some animals, got stuck into a hotel, which makes you feel so comfortable and oblivious that they had I think 9 days or something left until the summer solstice, which is the deadline to get the thing back to Zeus. But then they got stuck inside and got distracted by the Lotus Hotel and all of the video games inside of it, that they, once they came back outside and came to their senses, they only had a day left in order to get the lightning bolt, or 2 days or something, some very short amount of time. And they went, and I think that's basically where we left off. Let me double check. But Percy's also been having nightmares and stuff, so that hasn't been very helpful. But yeah, I think that's where we left off. Oh, they went to a mattress warehouse as well, and also almost got killed by this man named Krusty. Yeah. And that mattress store happened to be in downtown LA, and they're only a block away now currently from the address of the underworld. So that's basically what happened last time on Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. We're going to read chapter 18 now, called Annabeth Does Obedience School. Everybody good? Everybody good to go? I have my caffeinated drink here. I am ready to read. Let's go. All right. We stood in the shadows of Valencia Boulevard, looking up at gold letters etched in black marble, DOA Recording Studios. Underneath, stenciled on the glass doors, no solicitors, no loitering, no living. It was almost midnight, but the lobby was brightly lit and full of people. Behind the security desk sat a tough-looking guard with sunglasses and an earpiece. I turned to my friends. Okay, you remember the plan. The plan? Grover gulped. Yeah, I love the plan. Annabeth said, What happens if the plan doesn't work? Don't think negative. Right, she said. We're entering the land of the dead, and I shouldn't think negative. I took the pearls out of my pocket, the 3 milky spheres the Nereid gave me at Santa Monica. Also, Percy went to Santa Monica Beach. A messenger of Poseidon gave him some things to help him out on his quest. They didn't seem like much of a backup in case something went wrong. Annabeth put her hand on my shoulder. I'm sorry, Percy, you're right. We'll make it. It'll be fine. She gave Grover a nudge. Oh, right, he chimed in. We got this far. We'll find the Master Bolt and save your mom, no problem. I looked at them both and felt really grateful. Only a few minutes before, I'd almost gotten them stretched to death on deluxe waterbeds, and now they were trying to be brave for my sake, trying to make me feel better. I slipped the pearls back into my pocket. Let's whip some underworld butt. We walked into the DOA lobby. Muzak played softly on hidden speakers. The carpet and walls were steel gray. Pencil cactuses grew up in the corners like skeleton hands. The furniture was black leather, and every seat was taken. There were people sitting on couches, people standing up, people staring out the windows or waiting for the elevator. Nobody moved, or talked, or did much of anything. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see them all just fine, but if I focused on any one of them in particular, they started looking transparent. I could see right through their bodies. The security guard's desk was a raised podium, so we had to look up at him. He was tall and elegant, with chocolate-colored skin and bleached blonde hair shaved military style. He wore tortoiseshell shades and a silk Italian suit that matched his hair. A black rose was pinned to his lapel under a silver name tag. I read the name tag, then looked at him in bewilderment. Your name is Chiron? He leaned across the desk. I couldn't see anything in his glasses except my own reflection, but his smile was sweet and cold, like a python's right before it eats you. What a precious young lad. He had a strange accent. Oh, never mind. What a precious young lad. He had a strange accent. British maybe, but also as if he had learned English as a second language. Tell me, mate, do I look like a centaur? No. Sir, he added smoothly. Sir, I said. My first British accent. Oh my gosh. He pinched the name tag and ran his finger under the letters. Can you read this, mate? It says Charon. Say it with me. Charon. Amazing. Now, Mr. Charon. Mr. Charon, I said. Well done. He sat back. I hate being confused with that old horseman. And now, how may I help you, little dead ones? It's such a bad accent. I don't want to do this. His question caught in my stomach like a fastball. I looked at Annabeth for support. I'm British, mate. Oi, bruv. I'm just gonna try and do Phoenix from Valorant. His question caught in my stomach like a fastball. I looked at Annabeth for support. We want to go to the underworld, she said. Charon's mouth twitched. Well, that's refreshing. It is? She asked. Straightforward. I turned into an Irish man for a second. Straightforward. Keep trying. Straightforward and honest. Oh my god. This is so embarrassing. I can't do it. No. Straightforward and honest. No screaming. No, there must be a mistake, Mr. Charon. He looked over at us. How did you die then? I nudged Grover. Oh, he said. Drowned. In the bathtub. All three of you? Charon asked. We nodded. Big bathtub. Charon looked mildly impressed. I don't suppose you have coins for passage. Normally, with adults you see, I could charge you American Express or add the ferry price to your latest cable bill, but with children, alas, you never died prepared. Suppose you have to take a seat for a few centuries. Oh, but we have coins, I said. 3 gold drachmas on the counter, part of the stash I'd found in Krusty's office desk. Well now. Charon moistened his lips. Real drachmas. Real gold drachmas. I haven't seen these, and his fingers hovered greedily over the coins. We were so close. Then Charon looked at me. That cold stare behind his glasses seemed to bore a hole through my chest. Here now, he said. You couldn't read my name correctly. Are you dyslexic, lad? No, I said. I'm dead. Charon leaned forward and took a sniff. I'm sorry to anybody that is of the places that I'm doing the accents. I feel really bad. They're not that good. System, thank you for gifting 10 tier 1 subs. Oh my goodness. Wow. Well now, Charon moistened his lips. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Then Charon looked at me. Oh no, I'm dead. I said, I'm dead. Charon leaned forward and took a sniff. You're not dead. I should have known. You're a godling. We have to go get to the underworld, I insisted. Charon made a growling sound deep in his throat. Immediately, all the people in the waiting room got up and started pacing, agitated, lighting cigarettes, running hands through their hair and checking their wristwatches. Leave while you can, Charon told us. I'll just take these and forget I saw you. He started going to go for the coins, but I snatched them back. No service, no tip. I tried to sound braver than I felt. Charon growled again, a deep, blood-chilling sound. The spirits of the dead started pounding on the elevator doors. It's a shame, too, I sighed. We had more to offer. I held up the entire bag from Krusty's stash. I took out a fistful of drachmas and let the coins spill through my fingers. Charon's growl changed into something more like a lion's purr. Do you think I can be bought, godling? Just out of curiosity. How much you got there? A lot, I said. I bet Hades doesn't pay you very well for such hard work. Oh, you don't know the half of it. How would you like to babysit these spirits all day? Always, please don't let me be dead, or please let me cross for free. I haven't had a pay raise in 3,000 years. Do you imagine suits like this come cheap? You deserve better, I agreed. A little appreciation, respect, good pay. With each word, I stacked another gold coin on the counter. Charon glanced down at his silk Italian jacket, as if imagining himself in something even better. I must say, lad, you've got some sense now. Just a little. I stacked another few coins. I could mention a pay raise while I'm talking to Hades. He sighed. The boat's almost full anyway. I might as well just add you 3 and be off. He stood, scooped up our money, and said, Come along. We pushed through the crowd of waiting spirits, who started grabbing at our clothes like the wind. Their voices whispering things I couldn't make out. Charon shoved them out of the way, grumbling, "Freeloaders." He escorted us into the elevator, which was already crowded with souls of the dead, each one holding a green boarding pass. Charon grabbed 2 spirits who were trying to get on with us and pushed them back into the lobby. "Right now, no one's going to get any ideas while I'm gone," he announced in the waiting room. "If anyone moves the dial off my easy listening station again, I'll make sure you're here for another 1,000 years. Understand?" He shut the doors. He put a key card into a slot in the elevator panel, and we started to descend. "What happened to the spirits waiting in the lobby?" Annabeth said. "Nothing," Charon said. "For how long?" "Forever, or until I'm feeling generous." "Oh," she said. "That's fair." Charon raised an eyebrow. "Whoever said death was fair, young miss? Wait until it's your turn. You'll die soon enough when you're going." "Where you're going." "We'll get out alive," I said. Ha! I got a sudden dizzy feeling. We weren't going down anywhere, but forward. The air turned misty. Spirits around me started changing shape. Their modern clothes flickered, turning into gray hooded robes. The floor of the elevator began swaying. I blinked hard. When I opened my eyes, Charon's creamy Italian suit had been replaced by a long black robe. His tortoiseshell glasses were gone. Where his eyes should have been were empty sockets, like Ares, except Charon's were totally dark, full of night and death and despair. He looked at me and said, "Well?" "Nothing," I managed. I thought he was grinning, but he wasn't. The flesh on his face had become transparent, letting me see straight through his skull. The floor kept swaying. Grover said, "I think I'm gonna get seasick." When I blinked again, the elevator wasn't an elevator anymore. We were standing in a wooden barge. Charon was poling us across a dark, oily river, swirling with bones, dead fish, and other stranger things. Plastic dolls, crushed carnations, soggy diplomas with gilt edges. "The river Styx," Annabeth murmured. "It's so polluted," Charon said. For thousands of years, you humans have been throwing in everything you can come across. Hopes, dreams, wishes that you never came true. Irresponsible waste management, if you ask me." The fuck is wrong with me? Oh my god. Okay, I'm hydrating. Can I drink this? Oh my god, it's so gross. Alright, Miss curled off the filthy water. Above us, almost lost in the gloom, was a ceiling of stalactites. Ahead, the far shore glimmered with greenish light the color of poison. That was so aggressive. "If you had the chance to change your fate, would ya?" Oh my gosh. Panic closed up my throat. What was I doing here? These people around me, they were dead. Annabeth grabbed hold of my hand. Under normal circumstances, this would have embarrassed me, but I understood how she felt. She wanted reassurance and somebody else was alive on the boat. I found myself muttering a prayer, though I wasn't quite sure who I was praying to. Down here, only one God mattered, and he was the one I had come to confront. The shoreline of the underworld came into view. Craggy rocks and black volcanic sand stretched inland about 100 yards to the base of a high stone wall, which marched off in either direction as far as we could see. A sound came from somewhere nearby in the green gloom, echoing off the stones, the howl of a large animal. "Old Three-Face is hungry," Charon said. His smile turned skeletal in the greenish light. "Bad luck for you, godlings." The bottom of our boat slid into the black sand. The dead began to disembark, a woman holding a little girl's hand, an old man and an old woman hobbling along arm in arm, a boy no older than I was shuffling silently in his gray robe. Charon said, "I'd wish you luck, mate, but there isn't any down here." Why do I keep wanting to turn into an Irish man? "Mind you, don't forget to mention my pay raise." He counted our golden coins into his pouch, then took up his pole. He warbled something that sounded like a Barry Manilow song as he ferried the empty barge back across the river. We followed the spirits up a well-worn path. I need to... Here we go. I'm not sure what I was expecting. Pearly gates or a big black portcullis? I don't know. Or something. But the entrance to the underworld looked like a cross between airport security or the Jersey Turnpike. There were 3 separate entrances under one huge black archway that said, "You are now entering Airbus." Each entrance had a pass-through metal detector with security cameras mounted on top. Beyond this were toll booths manned by black-robed ghouls like Charon. The howling of the hungry animal was really loud now, but I couldn't see where it was coming from. The 3-headed dog, Cerberus, who was supposed to guard Hades' door, was nowhere to be seen. The dead queued up in the 3 lines, 2 marked "Attendant on duty" and 1 marked "Easy death." The easy death line was moving right along. The other two were crawling. What do you figure? I asked Annabeth. The fast line must go straight to the asphodel fields, she said. No contest. They don't want to risk judgment from the court because it might go against them. There's a court for dead people? Yeah, 3 knights. Or 3 judges. They switch around who sits in the bench. King Minos, Thomas Jefferson, Shakespeare, people like that. Sometimes they look at life and decide that person needs a special reward, the fields of Elysium. Sometimes they decide on punishment. But most people, well, they just lived. Nothing special, good, or bad. So they go to asphodel fields. I think I'm saying that right. Asphodel fields. And do what? Grover said, imagine standing in a wheat field in Kansas. Forever. Harsh, I said. Not as harsh as that, Grover muttered. Look. A couple of black-robed ghouls had pulled aside one spirit and were frisking him at the security desk. The face of the dead man looked vaguely familiar. He asked what preacher... He's that preacher who made the news, remember? Grover asked. Oh, yeah. I did remember now. We'd seen him on TV a couple times at the Yancey Academy dorm. He was this annoying televangelist from upstate New York who'd raised millions of dollars for orphans, and when they got caught spending the money on stuff for his mansion, like gold-plated toilet seats and an indoor putt-putt golf course, he died in a police chase when his Lamborghini for the Lord went off a cliff. I said, what are they going to do to him? Special punishment from Hades, Grover guessed. The really bad people get this personal attention as soon as they arrive. The kindly ones will set up an eternal torture for him. The bad place. The thought of the furries... I can't read today. I can't read. I quit. Oh my god. 3 streams in a row I've said the furries instead of the furies. You can't blame me. It's 1 R short of being the furries. It's 1 R short. Oh my god. The return of the furries. I'm gonna go to the bad place. The thought of the Furies made me shudder. I realized I was in their home territory now. Old Mrs. Dodds would be licking her lips with anticipation. But if he's a preacher, I said, and he believes in a different hell, Grover shrugged. Who says he's seeing this place the way we're seeing it? Humans see what they want to see. You're very stubborn, or persistent that way. We got closer to the gates. The howling wasn't so loud now. It shook the ground at my feet, but I still couldn't figure out where it was coming from. Then about 50 feet in front of us, the green mist shimmered. Standing just there, where the path split into 3 lanes, was an enormous shadowy monster. I hadn't seen it before because it was half transparent, like the dead. Until it moved, it blended with whatever was behind it. Only its eyes and teeth looked solid, and it was staring straight at me. My jaw hung open, and all I could think to say was, He's a Rottweiler. I'd always imagined Cerberus as a big black mastiff, but he was obviously a purebred Rottweiler. Brick! Except, of course, that he was twice the size of a woolly mammoth, mostly invisible, and had 3 heads. The dead walked right up to him, no fear at all. The attendant on duty lines parted on either side of him. The easy death spirits walked right between his front paws and under his belly, which they could do without even crouching. I'm starting to see him better, I muttered. Why is that? I think Annabeth moistened her lips. I'm afraid it's because we're getting closer to being dead. The dog's middle head craned towards us. It sniffed the air and growled. It can smell the living, I said. But that's okay, Grover said, trembling next to me, because we have a plan. Right, Annabeth said. I'd never heard her voice sound quite so small. A plan. We moved towards the monster. The middle head snarled at us, then barked so loud my eyeballs rattled. Can you understand it? I asked Grover. Oh yeah, he said. I can understand it. What's it saying? I don't think humans have a 4-letter word that translates exactly. I took the big stick out of my backpack, a bedpost I'd broken off of Krusty's Safari Deluxe floor model. I held it up and tried to channel happy dog thoughts towards Cerberus. Alpo commercials, cute little puppy hydrants. Cute little puppies, fire hydrants. I tried to smile like it wasn't about to die. Hey, big fella, I called up. I bet they don't play with you much. Growl! Good boy, I said weakly. I waved the stick. The dog's middle head followed the movement. The other 2 heads trained their eyes on me, completely ignoring the spirits. I had Cerberus's undivided attention. I wasn't sure that was a good thing. Fetch! I threw the stick into the gloom. A good solid throw. I heard it go kerploosh in the river Styx. Cerberus glared at me, unimpressed. His eyes were baleful and cold. So much for the plan. Cerberus was now making a new kind of growl, deeper down in his 3 throats. Grover said, Percy? Yeah? I just thought you'd want to know. Yeah? Cerberus, he says we've got 10 seconds to pray to the god of our choice, and after that, well, he's hungry. Wait, Annabeth said. She started rifling through her pack. Uh-oh, I forgot. Uh-oh, I thought. 5 seconds, Grover said. Do we run now? Annabeth produced a large red rubber ball the size of a grapefruit. It was labeled Waterland, Denver, Colorado. Before I could stop her, she raised the ball and marched straight up to Cerberus. She shouted, See the ball? You want the ball, Cerberus? Sit! Cerberus looked as stunned as we were. All 3 of his heads cocked sideways. 6 nostrils dilated. Sit! Annabeth called again. I was sure that any moment she would become the world's largest milk-bone dog biscuit, but instead, Cerberus licked his three sets of lips, shifted on his haunches, and sat, immediately crushing a dozen spirits who'd been passing underneath him in the easy death line. The spirits made muffled hisses as they dissipated, letting the air sink out like the air let out of tires. Annabeth said, Good boy! She threw Cerberus the ball. He caught it in his middle mouth. It was barely big enough for him to chew, and the other head started snapping in the middle, trying to get the new toy. Drop it! Annabeth ordered. Cerberus's head stopped fighting and looking at her. The ball was wedged between 2 of his teeth like a tiny piece of gum. He made a loud, scary whimper, then dropped the ball, now slimy and bitten, nearly in half on Annabeth's feet. Good boy. She picked up the ball, ignoring the monster spit all over it. She turned towards us. Go now. Easy death line. It's faster. I said, But now, she ordered, in the same tone she was using on the dog. Grover and I inched forward warily. Cerberus started to growl. Stay, Annabeth ordered the monster. If you want the ball, stay. Cerberus whimpered, but he stayed where he was. What about you? I asked Annabeth as we passed her. I know what I'm doing, Percy, she muttered. At least, I'm pretty sure. Grover and I walked between the monster's legs. Please, Annabeth, I prayed. Don't let him sit again. We made it through. Cerberus wasn't any less scary looking from the back. Annabeth said, Good dog! She held up the tattered red ball and probably came to the same conclusion I did. If she rewarded Cerberus, there'd be nothing left for another trick. She threw the ball away. The monster's left mouth immediately snatched it up, only to be attacked by the middle head, while the right head moaned in protest. While the monster was distracted, Annabeth walked briskly under its belly and joined us at the metal detector. How did you do that? I asked her, amazed. Obedience school, she said breathlessly. And I was surprised to see that there was tears in her eyes. When I was little at my dad's house, we had a Doberman. Never mind that, Grover said, tugging at my shirt. Come on. We were about to bolt through the easy death line when Cerberus moaned pitifully from all 3 mouths. Annabeth stopped. She turned to face the dog, which had done a 180 to look at us. Cerberus panted expectantly, the tiny red ball in pieces in a puddle of drool at its feet. Good boy, Annabeth said, but her voice sounded melancholy and uncertain. The monster's head turned sideways, as if worried about her. I'll bring you another ball soon, Annabeth promised faintly. Would you like that? The monster whimpered. I didn't need to speak dog to know that Cerberus was still waiting for the ball. Good boy. I'll come visit you soon. I promise. Annabeth turned to us. Let's go. Grover and I pushed through the metal detector, which immediately screamed and set off flashing red lights. Unauthorized possessions. Magic detected. Cerberus started to bark. We burst through the easy death gate, which started even more alarms blaring, and raced into the underworld. A few minutes later, we were hiding, out of breath in a rotten trunk of immense black tree, as the security ghouls scuttled past, yelling for backup from the Furies. Grover muttered, Well, Percy, what have we learned today? That 3-headed dogs prefer red rubber balls over sticks? No, Grover told me. We've learned that your plans really, really bite. I wasn't sure about that. I thought maybe Annabeth and I both had the right idea. Even here in the underworld, everybody, even monsters, needed a little attention once in a while. I thought about that as we waited for the ghouls to pass. I pretended not to see Annabeth wipe a tear from her cheek as she listened to the mournful keening of Cerberus in the distance, longing for his new friend. Aww. Rubbertoe, thank you for gifting a sub. System Checks, Jesus Christ, thank you for gifting so many subs. Wow. Oh my gosh. You've gifted... Oh my goodness, thank you. Wow. Oh my gosh. Everybody, System Checks Pog. Wow. Oh my god. That's crazy. Thank you so much. And with that, we are done with chapter 18. So we'll move on to 19 in a sec. Wow. Let's see some of those sub emotes, everybody. I'm working right now so I can afford it. Everyone is very grateful, so thank you so much for spending them on your money on subs. It's so sweet when anybody chooses to spend their hard-earned money with anything relating to my work. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and from the bottom of my heart, very, very appreciative for everybody in chat as well, I'm sure. Yay! Lads. I'm sorry. Oh my goodness. Chickman, thank you so much, Emma. Chickman Emma, thank you so much for the sub. Thank you, Roberto, for gifting another sub. Oh my gosh. Totally welcome. Just means more people can enjoy. That's so sweet. Thank you. Ah, people are so kind. Lots of people will give me hope that people are good at their core. So it's sweet. Thank you for being one of those people. It's a hype train. It's a hype train. Wait, level 4? Man, how many Twitch streams can be like, yo, we got a hype train level 4 when Maya was reading a chapter of a book. Everybody keep gifting subs. I gotta go to the bathroom. Okay, go to the bathroom. Go to the bathroom. Roberto, thank you again for gifting a sub. You've gifted 13 subs in the channel. Let me check again to see how many System is gifted. Oh my gosh. I don't even know if I could check. Wow, System checks, thank you again for doing that. Holy crap. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. I wish I could do more to thank you for giving out so many subs to people. They said, gift more? Thank you. Wow. Oh my gosh. That's at least, oh my god, we already finished level 5. I'm sorry I don't have anything to give back, necessarily. I can just read in really shitty accents. Riley, thank you for cheering. Roberto, thank you for gifting another sub. Holy crap. Wow. You guys are crazy. You guys are crazy. Oh my gosh. Wow. You give enough, it's fun for us. Thank you. Thank you so much. OMG, 54 subs this stream. That's crazy. That's definitely the most subs I've ever had on my stream. Oh my gosh. Jesus Christ. Read the fucking book. I'm trying to appreciate the people that are giving back to the stream right now. Oh my gosh. Jesus, 184% on level 5 hype train. Read book or boycott. Hey, don't boycott. Not yet. Don't throw a coup. Books, wide peepo happy. How do you see the hype train thingy? I think it just shows up at the top. Your accents are actually good though. Thank you. Kate, thank you for converting your Twitch Prime sub into a tier 1 sub. Breadtoon just redeemed an MXM hydrate. Oh, okay. I'll drink actual water for this one. That's guayaki, so it's caffeinated tea. I just splashed it on my face. No, James, no! Oh, okay, fine. No, not posture check. But I was so comfy. No, not another hydrate. Oh my god. Oh my god. You gonna read that book or... Man, y'all be impatient as hell. Give me a break. Okay, I'm drinking more water. Jesus Christ, bro. Oh, frick. Oh my god, I got another one? Oh my god. Please, God, stop. Oh my god. Please. Dear Lord. Thank you, Spike, for subbing. System Checks, thank you for gifting you. System Checks has gifted 41 subs to the stream. Thank you so much. What? Oh my god. I'm just reading a fucking book. Or at least I'm supposed to be reading a book. Rubber Toe, thank you for gifting 2 more subs. Oh my gosh. I'm literally... Oh my god. I just burped like 10 times in the last 3 seconds. Oh my god. Okay. I should read. This is what people are kind of here for. Kind of. Hydration, more like read the book. God damn! Okay. Okay. Alright. Hype Train was successful. I think we finished every single level. Stretch Strong support, level 5 completed. Let's see what it says. 19 subs and 919 bits. Thank you guys so much. MXM Hydrate. I don't have any more water. Oof. Oofy. Wow. Thank you, Riley, again for cheering 500 bits. Okay. Let's read. Quit stalling. Bro. Oh my god, I'm not stalling. It's called interacting with chat. Alright. Chapter 19. We find out the truth. Sort of. People are so mean. Okay. Imagine the largest concert crowd you've ever seen. A football field packed with 1 million fans. Now imagine a field of 1 million times that big, packed with people, and imagine the electricity has gone out, and there's no noise, no light, no beach ball bouncing around over the crowd. Something tragic has happened backstage. Whispering masses of people are just milling around in the shadows, waiting for the concert that will never start. Alright. If you can picture that, you have a pretty good idea what the field of asphodel will look like. The black grass had been trampled by eons of dead feet. A warm, moist wind blew like the breath of a swamp. Black trees, Grover told me, they were poplars, grew in clumps here and there. The cavern ceiling was so high above us, it might have been a bank of storm clouds, except for the stalactites, which glowed faint gray and looked wickedly pointed. I tried not to imagine they'd fall on us at any moment, but dotted around the fields were several that had fallen and impaled themselves in the black grass. I guess the dead didn't have to worry about little hazards like being speared by stalactites the size of booster rockets. Annabeth, Grover, and I tried to blend into the crowd, keeping an eye out for the security goals. I couldn't help looking for familiar faces among the spirits of asphodel, but the dead are hard to look at. Their faces shimmer. They look kind of slightly angry or confused. They'll come up to you and speak, but their voices sound like chatter, like bats twittering. Once they realize you can't understand them, they frown and move away. The dead aren't scary. They're just sad. We crept along, following the line of new arrivals that snaked from the main gates towards a black-tented pavilion with a banner that read, "Judgment for Elysium and Eternal Damnation. Welcome, newly deceased." Out the back of the tent came 2 much smaller lines. To the left, spirits flanked by security ghouls were marching down a rocky path toward the fields of punishment, which glowed and smoked in the distance, a vast, cracked wasteland with rivers of lava and minefields and miles of barbed wire separating the different torture areas. Even from far away, I could see people being chased by hellhounds, burned at the stake, forced to run naked through cactus patches or listen to opera music. I could just make out a tiny hill with the ant-sized figure of Sisyphus struggling to move his boulder to the top. I saw worse tortures too, things I don't want to describe. Na, 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 na. Checking up on chat. If someone's being mean or rude, I am not bothered by it. I have lovely moderators who help me deal with them, and you all can make the chat positive, so that's up to you. Don't worry. People can be toxic because some people are like that by nature. Don't worry. I'm just gonna read, and I'm gonna trust that you guys are just enjoying the stream. That's okay. Alright. The line coming from the right side of the Judgment Pavilion was much better. This one led down towards a small valley surrounded by walls, a gated community, which seemed to be the only happy part in the underworld. Beyond the security gate were neighborhoods of beautiful houses from every time period in history, Roman villas and medieval castles and Victorian mansions. Silver and gold flowers bloomed on the lawns. The grass rippled in rainbow colors. I could hear laughter, and I could smell barbecue cooking. Elysium. In the middle of the valley was a glittering blue lake, with 3 small islands like a vacation resort in the Bahamas. The Isles for the blessed, for people who had chosen to be reborn 3 times, and 3 times achieved Elysium. Immediately I knew that's where I wanted to go when I died. That's what it's all about, Annabeth said, like she was reading my thoughts. That's the place for heroes. But I thought about how few people were there in Elysium, how tiny it was compared to the fields of asphodel, or even the fields of punishment. So few people did good in their lives, it was depressing. We left the Judgment Pavilion and moved deeper into the asphodel fields. It got darker. The colors faded from our clothes, the crowds of chattering spirits began to thin, and if after a few miles of walking we began to hear a familiar screech in the distance. Looming on the horizon was a palace of glittering black obsidian. Above the parapets swirled 3 dark bat-like creatures, the Furies. I got the feeling they were waiting for us. I suppose it's too late to turn back, Grover said wistfully. We'll be okay, I tried to sound confident. Maybe we should search for some other places first, Grover suggested. Like Elysium, for instance. Come on, goat boy, Annabeth grabbed his arm. Grover yelped. His sneakers sprouted wings and his legs shot forward, pulling him away from Annabeth. He landed flat on his back in the grass. Grover, Annabeth chided, stop messing around. But I didn't. He yelped again. His shoes were flapping like crazy now. They levitated off the ground and started dragging him away from us. Maya, he yelled, but the magic words seemed to have no effect. Maya already! 911! Help! I got over being stunned and made a grab for Grover's hand, but too late. He was picking up speed, skidding downhill like a bobsled. We ran after him. Annabeth shouted, Untie the shoes! It was a smart idea, but I guess it's not so easy when your shoes are pulling you alongside, feet first, at full speed. Grover tried to sit up, but he couldn't get close to the laces. We kept after him, trying to keep him in sight as he zipped between the legs of spirits who chattered at him in annoyance. I was sure Grover was going to barrel straight through the gates of Hades' place, but his shoes veered sharply to the right and dragged him in the opposite direction. The slope got steeper. Grover picked up speed. Annabeth and I had to sprint to keep up. The cavern walls narrowed on either side, and I realized we'd entered some kind of side tunnel. No black grass or trees now, just rock underfoot, and the dim light of the stalactites above. Grover, I yelled, my voice echoing. Hold on to something. What? He yelled back. He was grabbing at gravel, but there was nothing big enough to slow him down. Don't be pressured to sub or gift subs. Just an option. What? He yelled back. He was grabbing at gravel, but there was nothing big enough to slow him down. The tunnel got darker and colder. The hairs on my arms bristled. I smelled evil down here. It made me think of things I shouldn't even know about. Blood spilled on an ancient stone altar, the foul breath of a murderer. Then I saw what was ahead of us, and I stopped dead in my tracks. The tunnel widened into a huge, dark cavern, and in the middle was a chasm the size of a city block. Grover was sliding straight towards the edge. Come on, Percy, Annabeth yelled, tugging my wrist. But that's... I know, she shouted. The place you described in your dream, but Grover's going to fall if we don't catch him. She was right, of course. Grover's predicament got me moving again. He was yelling, clawing at the ground, but the winged shoes kept dragging him towards the pit, and it didn't look like we were going to possibly get to him in time. What saved him were his hooves. The flying sneakers had always been a loose fit on him, and finally Grover hit a big rock, and the left shoe came flying off. It sped into the darkness, down into the chasm. The right shoe kept tugging him along, but not as fast. Grover was able to slow himself down by grabbing onto one big rock and using it like an anchor. He was 10 feet from the edge of the pit when we caught him and hauled him back up the slope, the other winged shoe tugging itself off, circling around us angrily and kicking our heads in protest before flying off into the chasm to join its twin. We all collapsed, exhausted on the obsidian gravel. My limbs felt like lead. Even my backpack seemed heavier, as if somebody had filled it with rocks. Grover was scratched up pretty bad. His hands were bleeding. His eyes had gone slit-pupiled, goat style, the way they did whenever he was terrified. I don't know how, he panted. I didn't. Wait, I said. Listen. I heard something, a deep whisper in the darkness. Another few seconds, and Annabeth said, Percy, this place. Shh, I stood. The sound was getting louder, a muttering, evil voice from far, far below us, coming from the pit. Grover sat up. What's that noise? Annabeth heard it too. Now I could see it in her eyes. Tartarus. The entrance to Tartarus. I uncapped Anaklusmos. The bronze sword expanded, gleaming in the darkness, and the evil voice seemed to falter, just for a moment before resuming its chant. I could almost make out words now, ancient words, older than even Greek. As if, magic, I said. We have to get out of here, Annabeth said. Together we dragged Grover to his hooves and started making our way back up the tunnel. My legs wouldn't move fast enough. My backpack weighed me down. The voice got louder and angrier behind us, and we broke into a run. Not a moment too soon. A cold blast of wind pulled at our backs, as if the entire pit were inhaling. For a terrifying moment, I lost ground, my feet slipping in the gravel. If we'd been any closer to the edge, we would have been sucked in. We kept struggling forward and finally reached the top of the tunnel, where the cavern widened out into the fields of asphodel. The wind died. A wail of outrage echoed from deep in the tunnel. Something was not happy we'd gotten away. What was that? Grover panted, when we collapsed in the relative safety of a black poplar grove. One of Hades' pets? Annabeth and I looked at each other. I could tell she was nursing an idea, probably the same one she'd gotten during the taxi ride in L.A., but she was too scared to share it. That was enough to terrify me. I capped my sword, put the pen back into my pocket. Let's keep going, I looked at Grover. Can you walk? He swallowed. Yeah, sure. I never liked those shoes anyways. He was trying to sound brave about it, but he was trembling as bad as Annabeth and I were. Whatever was in that pit was nobody's pet. It was unspeakably old and powerful. Even Echidna hadn't given me that feeling. I was almost relieved to turn my back on that tunnel and head towards the Palace of Hades. Almost. The Furies circled the parapets, high in the gloom. The outer walls of the fortress glittered black, and the 2-story bronze gates stood wide open. Up close, I saw that the engravings on the gates were scenes of death. Some were from modern times, an atomic bomb exploding over a city, a trench filled with gas masks wearing soldiers, a line of African famine victims waiting with empty bowls, but all of them looked as if they'd been etched in the bronze thousands of years ago. I wondered if I was looking at prophecies that had just come true. Inside the courtyard was the strangest garden I'd ever seen. Multicolored mushrooms, poisonous shrubs, and weird luminous plants grew without sunlight. Precious jewels made up for the lack of flowers, piles of rubies as big as my fists, clumps of raw diamonds, standing here and there like frozen party guests were Medusa's garden statues, petrified children, satyrs and centaurs, all smiling grotesquely. In the center of the garden was an orchard of pomegranate trees, their orange blooms neon bright in the dark. The garden of Persephone, Annabeth said. Keep walking. I understood why she wanted to move on. The tart smell of those pomegranates was almost overwhelming. I had a sudden desire to eat them, but then I remembered the story of Persephone, one bite of underworld food, and we would never be able to leave. I pulled Grover away to keep him from picking a big juicy one. We walked up the steps of the palace between black columns through a black marble portico and onto the House of Hades. The entry hall had a polished bronze floor, which seemed to boil in the reflected torchlight. There was no ceiling, just the cavern roof, far above. I guess they never had to worry about rain down here. Every side doorway was guarded by a skeleton in military gear. Some wore Greek armor, some British redcoat uniforms, some camouflaged with tattered American flags on their shoulders. They carried spears or muskets or M16s. None of them bothered us, but their hollow eye sockets followed us as we walked down the hall towards the big set of doors on the opposite side. 2 U.S. Marine skeletons guarded the doors. They grinned down at us, rocket-propelled grenade launchers held across their chests. You know, Grover mumbled, I bet Hades doesn't have trouble with door-to-door salesmen. My backpack weighed a ton now. I couldn't figure out why. I wanted to open it, check to see if I had somehow picked up a stray bowling ball, but this wasn't the time. Well, guys, I said, I suppose we should knock? A hot wind blew down the corridor and the doors swung open. The guards stepped aside. I guess that means au revoir, Annabeth said. The room inside looked like it did in my dream, except this time the throne of Hades was occupied. He was the third god I'd met, but the first who really struck me as godlike. He was at least 10 feet tall, for one thing, and dressed in silk black robes and a crown of braided gold. His skin was albino white, his hair shoulder length and jet black. He wasn't bulked up like Ares, but he radiated power. He lounged in his throne of fused human bones, looking lithe, graceful, and dangerous as a panther. I immediately felt like he should be giving the orders. He knew more than I did. He should be my master, and then I told myself to snap out of it. Hades' aura was affecting me, just as Ares had. The Lord of the Dead resembled pictures I'd seen of Adolf Hitler, or Napoleon, or the terrorist leaders who directed suicide bombers. Hades had the same intense eyes, the same kind of mesmerizing evil charisma. You are brave to come here, son of Poseidon, he said in an oily voice. After what you've done to me, very brave indeed, or perhaps you are simply very foolish. Numbness crept in my joints, tempting me to lie down and just take a nap at Hades' feet, curled up here and sleep forever. I fought the feeling and stepped forward. I knew what I had to say. Lord and uncle, I come with 2 requests. Hades raised an eyebrow. When he sat forward in his throne, shadowy faces appeared in the folds of his black robes, faces of torment, as if the garment were stitched of trapped souls from the fields of punishment, trying to get out. The ADHD part of me wondered, off task, whether the rest of his clothes were made the same way. What horrible things would you have to do in your life to get woven into Hades' underwear? Only 2 requests, Hades said. Arrogant child. As if you have not already taken enough. Speak then. It amuses me not to strike you dead yet. I swallowed. This was going about as well as I feared. I glanced at the empty, smaller throne next to Hades. It was shaped like a black flower, gilded with gold. I wished Queen Persephone were here. I recalled something in the mist about how she could calm her husband's moods, but it was summer. Of course, Persephone would be above in the world of light with her mother, the goddess of agriculture, Demeter. Her visits, not the tilt of the planet, create the seasons. Annabeth cleared her throat. Her finger prodded me in the back. Lord Hades, I said. Look, sir, there can't be a war among the gods. It would be bad. Really bad, Grover added helpfully. Return Zeus's master bolt to me, I said. Please, sir, let me carry it to Olympus. Hades' eyes grew dangerously bright. You dare keep up this pretense after what you've done. I glared back at my friends. They looked about as confused as I was. Uncle, I said, you keep saying after what you've done. What exactly have I done? The throne room shook with a tremor so strong they've probably felt it upstairs in Los Angeles. Debris fell from the cavern ceilings. Doors burst open all along the hall wall. Doors burst open all along the walls, and skeletal warriors marched in, hundreds of them, from every time period and nation in Western civilization. They lined the perimeter of the room, blocking the exits. Hades bellowed, Do you think I want war, godling? I wanted to say, well, these guys don't look like peace activists, but I thought that might be a dangerous answer. You are the Lord of the Dead, I said carefully. A war would expand your kingdom, right? A typical thing for my brothers to say. Do you think I need more subjects? Do you not see the sprawl of the asphaltal fields? Well, have you any idea how much my kingdom has swollen in this past century alone? How many subdivisions I've had to open? I opened my mouth to respond, but Hades was on a roll now. More security goals, he moaned. Traffic problems in the Judgment Pavilion. Double overtime for the staff. I used to be a rich god, Percy Jackson. I control all the precious metal in the earth, but my expenses... Charon wants a pay raise, I blurted, but just remembering that fact as soon as I said it, I wish I would have sewn my mouth. Don't get me started on Charon, Hades yelled. He's been impossible ever since he discovered Italian suits. Problems everywhere, and I've got to handle all of them personally. The commute time alone from this palace to the gates is enough to drive me insane. Do I stan him? The economy! Hades said, Stonks! Oh my god. Oh my god. The commute time alone from the palace to the gates is enough to drive me insane, and the dead just keeps arriving. No, godling. I need no help getting subjects. I did not ask for this war. But you took Zeus's master bolt. Lies! More rumbling, Hades rose from his throne, towering with the height of his football goalpost. Your father may fool Zeus, boy, but I am not stupid. I see his plan. His plan? You were the thief of the winter solstice, he said. Your father thought to keep you his little secret. He directed you to the throne room on Olympus. You took a master bolt and my helm. Had I not sent my fury to discover you at Yancey Academy, Poseidon would have succeeded in hiding a scheme to start a war. But now you have been forced into the open. You will be exposed as Poseidon's thief, and I will have my helm back. But Annabeth spoke. I could tell her mind was going 1,000,000 miles an hour. Lord Hades, your helm of darkness is missing too? Do not play innocent with me, girl. You and the satyr have been helping this hero, coming here to threaten me in Poseidon's name, no doubt, to bring me an ultimatum. Does Poseidon think I can be blackmailed into supporting him? No, I said. I have had nothing of the helm's disappearance, Hades snarled, because I had no illusions that anyone on Olympus would offer me the slightest justice, the slightest help. I can ill afford for word to get out that the most powerful weapon of fear is missing. So I searched for you myself, and when it was clear you were coming to me to deliver your threat, I did not try to stop you. But you didn't try to stop us, but... Return my helm now, or I will stop death, Hades threatened. This is my counter-proposal. I will open the earth and have the dead pour back into the world. I will make your lands a nightmare, and you, Percy Jackson, your skeleton, will lead my army out of Hades. The skeletal soldiers all took one step forward, making their weapons ready. At that point, I probably should have been terrified. The strange thing was, I felt offended. Nothing gets me angrier than being accused of something I didn't do. I've had a lot of experience with that. You're as bad as Zeus, I said. You think I stole from you? That's why you sent the Furies after me? Of course, Hades said. And the other monsters? Hades curled his lip. I had nothing to do with them. My hand moved against my... Oh, nope. I wanted no quick death for you. I wanted you brought before me alive so you might face every torture in the fields of punishment. Why do you think I let you enter my kingdom so easily? Easily? Return my property. But I don't have your helm. I came for the Master Bolt, which you already possess, Hades shouted. You came here with it, little fool, thinking you could threaten me. But I didn't. Open your pack then. A horrible feeling struck me, the weight in my backpack like a bowling ball. It couldn't be. I slung off my shoulder and unzipped it. Inside was a 2-foot-long metal cylinder, spiked at both ends, humming with energy. Percy, Annabeth said. How? I don't understand. You heroes are always the same, Hades said. Your pride makes you foolish, thinking you could bring such a weapon before me. I did not ask for Zeus's Master Bolt, but since it is here, you will yield it to me. I am sure it will make an excellent bargaining tool. And now, my helm. Where is it? I was speechless. I had no helm. I had no idea how the Master Bolt had gotten into my backpack. I wanted to think Hades was pulling some kind of trick. Hades was the bad guy, but suddenly the world turned sideways. I realized I'd been played with. Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades had been set at each other's throats by someone else. The Master Bolt had been in the backpack, and I'd gotten the backpack from... Lord Hades, wait, I said. This is all a mistake. A mistake, Hades roared. The skeletons aimed their weapons. From high above, there was a fluttering of leathery wings, and the 3 Furies swooped down to perch on the back of their master's throne. The one with Mrs. Dodd's face grinned at me, eagerly, and flicked her whip. There is no mistake, Hades said. I know why you have come. I know the real reason you brought back the bolt. You came to bargain for her. Hades loosed a ball of gold fire from his palm. It exploded in the steps in front of me, and there was my mother, frozen in a shower of gold, just as she was at the moment when the Minotaur began to squeeze her to death. I couldn't speak. I reached out to touch her, but the light was hot as a bonfire. Yes, Hades said with satisfaction. I took her. I knew, Percy Jackson, that you would come to bargain with me eventually. Return my helm, and perhaps I will let her go. She is not dead, you know, not yet. But if you displease me, that will change. I thought about the pearls in my pocket. Maybe they could get me out of this. If I could just get my mom free. Ah, the pearls, Hades said, and my blood froze. Yes, my brother and his little tricks. Bring them forth, Percy Jackson. My hand moved against my will and brought out the pearls. Only 3, Hades said. What a shame. You do realize each only protects a single person. Try to take your mother then, little godling. And which of your friends will you leave behind to spend eternity with me? Go on, choose. Or give me the backpack and accept my terms. I looked at Annabeth and Grover. Their faces were grim. We were tricked, I told them. Set up. Yes, but why? Annabeth said. And the voice in the pit. I don't know yet, I said, but I intend to ask. Decide, boy, Hades yelled. Percy, Grover put his hand on my shoulder. You can't give him the bolt. I know that. Leave me here, he said. Use the 3rd pearl on your mother. No, I'm a satyr, Grover said. We don't have souls like humans do. He can torture me until I die, but he won't get me forever. I'll just be reincarnated as a flower or something. It's the best way. System checks, thank you again for gifting us 20 more subs. Sir. Oh my gosh. Last one, I gotta leave, guys. Love you all. Oh my god. Thank you for gracing my Twitch stream with your generosity. Holy... That's 60 subs. Bruh. Oh my god. That's crazy. System check's so nice. System check stand club. Oh my god. Okay. Here I go. Wow. Jeez. Okay, I'm focusing. No, Annabeth drew her bronze knife. You got to go on, Grover. You got to go on. Grover, you have to protect Percy. You have to get your searcher's license and start your quest for Pan. Get his mom out of here. I'll cover you. I plan to go down fighting. No way, Grover said. I'm staying behind. Think again, goat boy, Annabeth said. Stop it, both of you. I felt like my heart was being ripped in two. They had both been with me through so much. I remembered Grover dive-bombing Medusa in the statue garden, Annabeth saving us from Cerberus. We'd survived Festus's Waterland ride, the St. Louis Ark, and the Lotus Casino. I had spent thousands of miles worried that I'd be betrayed by a friend, but these friends would never do that. They'd had done nothing but save me, over and over, and now they wanted to sacrifice their lives for my mom. Wow, God. When we eat the rich, we're saving system checks. Yes. I know what to do, I said. Take these. I handed them each a pearl. Annabeth said, but Percy. I turned and faced my mother. I desperately wanted to sacrifice myself and use the last pearl on her, but I knew what she would say. She would never allow it. I had to get the bolt back to Olympus and tell Zeus the truth. I had to stop the war. She would never forgive me if I saved her instead. I thought about the prophecy made at Half-Blood Hill, which seemed like 1,000,000 years ago. You will fail to save what matters most in the end. I'm sorry, I told her. I'll be back. I'll find a way. The smug look on Hades' face faded. He said, Godling? I'll find your helm, Uncle, I told him. I'll return it. Remember about Charon's pay raise. Do not defy me, and it wouldn't hurt to play with Cerberus once in a while. He really likes red rubber balls. Percy Jackson, you will not... I shouted, now, guys! We smashed the pearls at our feet. For a scary moment, nothing happened. Hades yelled, destroy them! The army of skeletons rushed forward, swords out, guns clicking to a full automatic. The Furies lunged, their whips bursting into flame. Just as the skeletons opened fire, the pearl fragments at my feet exploded with a burst of green light and a gust of fresh sea wind. I was encased in a milky white sphere, which was starting to float off the ground. Annabeth and Grover were right behind me. Spears of bullets sparked harmlessly off the pearl bubbles as we floated up. Hades yelled with such rage, the entire fortress shook, and I knew it was not going to be a peaceful night in L.A. Look up, Grover yelled. We're going to crash! Sure enough, we were racing right towards the stalactites, and which I figured would probably pop our bubbles and skewer us. How do you control these things? Annabeth shouted. I don't think you do, I shouted back. We screamed as the bubbles slammed into the ceiling, and darkness. Were we dead? No. I could feel the racing sensation. We were going right up through solid rock as easy as an air bubble in water. That was the power of the pearls, I realized. What belongs to the sea will always return to the sea. For a few moments, I couldn't see anything outside the smooth walls of my sphere, and then my pearl broke through an ocean floor. The two other milky spheres, Annabeth and Grover, kept pace with me as we soared upwards through the water, and kerblam! We exploded on the surface in the middle of Santa Monica Bay, knocking a surfer off his board with an indignant, Dude! I grabbed Grover and hauled him over to a life buoy. I caught Annabeth and dragged her too. A curious shark was circling us, a great white about 11 feet long. I said, Beat it! The shark turned and raced away. The surfer screamed something about bad mushrooms and paddled away from us as fast as he could. I was too young to understand what that was the first time I read that. Somehow I knew what time it was. Early morning, June 21st, the day of the summer solstice. In the distance, Los Angeles was on fire, plumes of smoke rising from the neighborhood all over the city. There had been an earthquake, all right, and it was Hades' fault. He was probably sending an army of the dead after me right now. But at that moment, the underworld wasn't my biggest problem. I had to get to shore. I had to get Zeus's thunderbolt back to Olympus. Most of all, I had a serious conversation with the god who tricked me. I had to have a serious conversation with the god who tricked me. Now we're on chapter 22. Wait, she was too young to understand what? Yeah, it was a drug line. I didn't know what mushrooms was when I was 9. I was 9. Yeah. Positivity. Positivity Club, which we are all a part of. God, wait. We've had so many subs gifted in this stream. I don't even know how to, start. It's crazy. As much as I love the Positivity Club talk, I don't know why it seems weird to seem like there's an exclusive club appearing inside of the Twitch stream. So, I don't know. You can spread positivity and kindness without having to make it feel like it's a club. I just came back. What did I miss? So Percy, Annabeth, and Grover have escaped the underworld. Hades, Percy does have the lightning bolt. We don't know how. We're going to figure that out. Yeah. They're going to have to go to Olympus because now it's the summer solstice and Zeus needs his lightning bolt back. I can't read good, so you reading this is actually very nice. I'm glad. I'm not a very good reader, though, either. I think I mess up a lot, so hopefully it's not too distracting. I think Maya put the thunderbolt in his bag. That's true. I don't think I would be... I'm trying to think of which god I would be the child of. I don't think it would be Poseidon anymore. I definitely don't feel well-equipped to handle being the daughter of a major god. Or at least one of the big three, you know? I don't think it would be Athena either, because, let's be honest, I do be kind of fucking dumb. Probably, like, well, would it be Apollo? Because he's the god of music. Yeah. No, I don't think Apollo. Psyche. Apollo. Yeah. That run was proof. Apollo. I never thought about being the daughter of Apollo. I don't really honestly know too much about him. Nicki Minaj is Apollo. This one is the boys with the boom and sisters. Top down AC with the cool and sisters. Y'all, Artemis is an eternal maiden. Yeah, as much as I love my vegan lesbian queen, she definitely doesn't have kids. Artemis is doing astrology in her small New York apartment. You should do the test on stream. Okay, I'll do the test after I finish if we have time. Yeah. Alright. Oh, to be a vegan lesbian doing astrology. Am I wrong? She gives me the vibe. Artemis said, I do it for the queens and the queers, that's it. Oh my god. Okay. Let's see. I feel like you're the child of the guy with the bad mushrooms. I'm the child of some random surfer dude in Los Angeles who was tripping and went into the middle of the ocean. Your dress is cute. Thanks, it's a tank top. Ayo. Alright. You're the daughter of Greek god Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj and I don't share a single ethnicity. As much as I love that woman, I do not. I hear guitar noise. Alright. Shall we read the next chapter? We have 2 more chapters left. Or 3, I guess. Chapter 20. I battle my jerk relative. A Coast Guard boat picked us up, but they were too busy to keep us for long, or to wonder how 3 kids in street clothes had gotten out into the middle of the bay. There was a disaster to mop up. Their radios were jammed with distress calls. They dropped us off at the Santa Monica Pier with towels around our shoulders and water bottles that said, I'm a junior Coast Guard, and sped off to save more people. Our clothes were sopping wet, even mine. When the Coast Guard boat had appeared, I'd silently prayed they wouldn't pick me out of the water and find me perfectly dry, which might have raised some eyebrows, so I'd willed myself to get soaked. Sure enough, my usual waterproof magic had abandoned me. I was also barefoot, because I'd given my shoes to Grover. Better the Coast Guard wonder why one of us was barefoot than wonder why one of us had hooves. After reaching dry land, we stumbled down the beach, watching the city burn against a beautiful sunrise. I felt as if I'd just come back from the dead, which I had. My backpack was heavy with Zeus's master bolt. My heart was even heavier from seeing my mother. I don't believe it, Annabeth said. We went all the way. It was a trick, I said, a strategy worthy of Athena. Hey, she warned. You get it, don't you? She dropped her eyes, her anger fading. Yeah, I get it. Well, I don't, Grover complained. Would somebody... Percy, Annabeth said, I'm sorry about your mother. I'm so sorry. I pretended not to hear her. If I talked about my mother, I was going to start crying like a little kid. Bruh, you are a little kid. You're literally 12. Anyways, the prophecy was right, I said. You should go west and face the god who was turned. But it wasn't Hades. Hades didn't want war among the big three. Somebody else pulled off the theft. Someone stole Zeus's master bolt and Hades' helm and framed me because I'm Poseidon's kid. Poseidon will get blamed by both sides. By sundown today, there will be a three-way war, and I'll have caused it. Grover shook his head, mystified. But who would be that sneaky? Who would want to go to war that bad? I stopped in my tracks and looked down at the beach. Gee, let me think. There he was, waiting for us, in his black leather duster and his sunglasses, an aluminum baseball bat propped up on his shoulder. His motorcycle rumbled beside him, its headlight turning the sand red. Hey, kids, Ares said, seeming genuinely pleased to see me. You were supposed to die. You tricked me, I said. You stole the helm and the master bolt. Ares grinned. Well, now, I didn't steal them personally. Gods taking each other's symbols of power? That's a big no-no. But you're not the only hero in the world who can run errands. Who did you use? Clarice? She was there in the winter solstice. The idea seemed to amuse him. Doesn't matter. The point is, kid, you're impending the war effort. See, you've got to die in the underworld. Then old Seaweed will be mad at Hades for killing you. Corpse Breath will have Zeus's master bolt, so Zeus will be mad at him, and Hades is still looking for this. From his pocket, he took out a ski cap, the kind bank robbers wear, and placed it between the handlebars of his bike. Immediately, the cap transformed into an elaborate bronze war helmet. The Helm of Darkness, Grover gasped. Exactly, Ares said. Now where was I? Oh yeah, Hades will be mad at both Zeus and Poseidon because he doesn't know who took this. Pretty soon, we got a nice little three-way slugfest going. But they're your family, Annabeth protested. Ares shrugged. Best kind of war. Always the bloodiest. Nothing like watching your relatives fight. I always say. You gave me the backpack in Denver, I said. The master bolt was in there the whole time. Yes and no, Ares said. It's probably too complicated for your little mortal brain to follow, but the backpack is a master bolt's sheath. Just morphed a bit. The bolt is connected to it, sort of like that sword you got there, kid. It always returns to your pockets, right? I wasn't sure how Ares knew about that, but I guess a god of war had to make it his business to know about weapons. Anyway, Ares continued, I tinkered with magic a bit so the bolt would only return to the sheath once you reach the underworld. You get close to Hades, bingo. You got mail. If you died along the way, no loss. I still have the weapon. But why not just keep the master bolt for yourself, I said. Why send it to Hades? Ares got a twitch in his jaw. For a moment, it was almost as if he were listening to another voice deep inside his head. Why didn't I? Yeah, with what kind of firepower? He held the transfer a second. 1 second. 2 seconds. He exchanged nervous looks with Annabeth. Ares' face cleared. I didn't want the trouble. Better to have you caught red-handed, holding the thing. You're lying, I said. Sending the bolt to the underworld wasn't your idea, was it? Of course it was. Smoke drifted up from his sunglasses as if they were about to catch fire. You didn't order the theft, I guess. Someone else was sent a hero to steal the 2 items. Then, when Zeus sent you to hunt him down, you caught the thief, but you didn't turn him over to Zeus. Something convinced you to let him go. You kept the items until the hero could come along and complete the delivery. That thing in the pit is ordering you around. I am a god of war. I take no orders from no one. No one. I don't have dreams. I hesitated. Who said anything about dreams? Ares looked agitated, but he tried to cover it with a smirk. Let's go back to the problem at hand, kid. You're alive. I can't have you taken that bolt to Olympus. You might get those hard-headed idiots to listen to you. So now I've got to kill you. Nothing personal. He snapped his fingers. The sand exploded at his feet and outcharged a wild boar, even larger and uglier than the one whose head hung above the door of the Cabin 7 at Camp Half-Blood. The beast pawed the sand, glaring at me with beady eyes as it lowered its razor-sharp tusks and waited for the command to kill. I stepped into the surf. Fight me yourself, Ares. He laughed, but I heard a little edge to his laughter, an uneasiness. You got one talent, kid. Running around and running away. You ran from the Chimera. You ran from the underworld. You don't have what it takes. Scared? In your adolescent dreams, but his sunglasses were starting to melt from the heat of his eyes. No direct involvement. Sorry, kid. You're not at my level. Annabeth said, Percy, run! The giant boar charged, but I was done running from monsters, or Hades, or Ares, or anybody. As the boar rushed me, I uncapped my pen and sidestepped. Riptide appeared in my hands. I slashed upwards, and the boar's severed right tusk fell at my feet, while the disoriented animal charged into the sea. I shouted, Wave! Immediately, a wave surged up from nowhere and engulfed the boar, wrapping it around like a blanket. The boar squealed once in terror, then it was gone, swallowed by the sea. I turned back to Ares. Are you going to fight me now? I asked, or are you going to hide behind another pet pig? Ares' face was purple with rage. Watch it, kid. I could turn you into a cockroach, I said. Or a tapeworm. Yeah, I'm sure. That'd save you from getting your godly hide whipped, wouldn't it? Flames danced along the top of his glasses. Oh man, you are really asking to be smashed into a grease spot. If I lose, turn me into something, anything you want. Take the bolt. If I win, the helm and the bolt are mine and you have to go away. Ares sneered. He swung the baseball bat off his shoulder. How would you like to get smashed? Classic or modern? I showed him my sword. That's cool, dead boy, he said. Classic it is. The baseball bat changed into a huge two-handed sword. The hilt was a large silver skull with a ruby in its mouth. Percy, Annabeth said, don't do this. He's a god. He's a coward, I told her. Damn, this fucking kid is 12. She swallowed. Wear this, at least, for luck. She took off her necklace, with her 5 years' worth of camp beads and the ring from her father, and tied it around my neck. Reconciliation, she said. Athena and Poseidon, together. Thanks. My face felt a little warm, but I managed to smile. And take this, Grover said. He handed me a flattened tin can that he'd probably been saving in his pockets for 1,000 miles. The satyrs stand behind you. Grover, I don't know what to say. He patted me on the shoulder. I stuffed the tin can in my back pocket. You all done saying goodbye? Nope. You all done saying goodbye? Ares came towards me, his black leather duster trailing behind him, his sword glinting like a fire in the sunrise. I've been fighting for an eternity, kid. My strength is unlimited, and I cannot die. What have you got? A smaller ego, I thought, but I said nothing. I kept my feet in the surf, backing into the water up to my ankles. I thought back to what Annabeth said in Denver Diner so long ago. Ares has strength, but that's all he has. Even strength has to bow to wisdom sometimes. He cleaved downward on my head, but I wasn't there. My body thought for me. The water seemed to push me into the air, and I catapulted over him, slashing as I came down, but Ares was just as quick. He twisted, and the strike that should have caught him directly in the spine was deflected off the end of his sword hilt. He grinned. Not bad, not bad. He slashed again, and I was forced to jump into a dry land. I tried to sidestep to get back in the water, but Ares seemed to know what I wanted. He outmaneuvered me, pressing so hard I had to put all my concentration on not getting sliced into pieces. I kept backing away from the surf. I couldn't find any openings to attack. His sword had reached several feet longer than Anaklusmos. Get it close, Luke told me once. Back in your sword class. You've got the shorter blade. Get in close. I stepped inside with a thrust, but Ares was waiting for that. He knocked my blade out of my hands and kicked me in the chest. I went airborne. 20, maybe 30 feet. I would have broken my back if I hadn't crashed into the soft sand of Dune. Percy, Annabeth yelled. Cops! I was seeing double. My chest felt like it had just been hit with a battering ram, but I managed to get to my feet. I couldn't look away from Ares for fear he'd slice me in half, but out of the corner of my eye I saw red lights flashing on the shoreline boulevard. Car doors were slamming. There, officer, somebody yelled. See? A gruff cop voice said. Looks like the kid on TV. What the heck? That guy's armed, another cop said. Call for backup. I rolled to one side as Ares' blade slashed the sand. I ran for my sword, scooped it up, and launched a swipe at Ares' face, only to find my blade deflected again. Ares seemed to know exactly what I was going to do the moment I did it. I stepped back towards the surf, forcing him to follow. Admit it, kid, Ares said. You got no hope. I'm just toying with you. My senses were working overtime. I now understood what Annabeth had said about ADHD keeping you alive in battle. I was wide awake, noticing every little detail. I could see where Ares was tensing. I could tell which way he would strike. At the same time, I was aware of Annabeth and Grover, 30 feet to my left. I saw a second cop car pulling up, sirens wailing. Spectators, people who had been wandering the streets because of the earthquake, were starting to gather. Along the crowd, I could see a few who were walking with the strange, trotting gait of disguised satyrs. There were shimmering forms of spirits, too, as if the dead had risen from Hades to watch the battle. I heard the flap of leathery wings circling somewhere above. More sirens. I stepped farther into the water, but Ares was fast. The tip of his blade ripped my sleeve and grazed my forearm. A police voice on the megaphone said, Drop the guns! Set them on the ground! Now! Guns? I looked at Ares' weapon. It seemed to be flickering something. It looked like a shotgun, sometimes a two-handed sword. I didn't know what the humans were seeing in my hands, but I was pretty sure it wouldn't make them like me. Ares turned to glare at our spectators, which gave me a moment to breathe. There were 5 police cars now, and a line of officers crouching behind them, pistols training on us. This is a private matter, Ares bellowed. Be gone! He swept his hand, and a red flame rolled across the patrol cars. The police barely had time to dive for cover before their vehicles exploded. The crowd behind them scattered, screaming. Ares roared with laughter. Now, little hero, let's add you to the barbecue. He slashed. I deflected his blade. I got close enough to strike, tried to fake him with one feint, but my blow was knocked aside. The waves were hitting me in the back now. Ares was up to his thighs, waiting in front of me. I felt the rhythm of the sea, the waves growing larger as the tide rolled in, and suddenly I had an idea. Little waves, I thought, and the water behind me seemed to recede. I was holding back the tide by force of will, but tension was building, like carbonation behind a cork. Ares came toward, grinning confidently. I lowered my blade as if I were too exhausted to go on. Wait for it, I told the sea. The pressure now was almost lifting me off my feet. Ares raised his sword. I released the tide and jumped, rocketing straight over Ares on a wave. A 6-foot wall of water smashed him full in the face, leaving him cursing and sputtering with a mouthful of seaweed. I landed behind him with a splash and feinted towards his head, as I'd done before. He turned in time to raise his sword, but this time he was disoriented. He didn't anticipate a trick. I changed direction, lunged to the side, and stabbed Riptide straight and down into the water, sending the point through the god's heel. That roar that followed made Hades' earthquake look like a minor event. The very sea was blasted back from Ares, leaving a wet circle of sand 50 feet wide. Ichor, the golden blood of the gods, flowed from a gash on the war god's boot. Ichor, the golden bloods of the gods, flowed from a gash on the war god's boot. The expression on his face was beyond hatred. It was pain, shock, complete disbelief that he'd been wounded. He limped towards me, muttering ancient Greek curses. Something stopped him. It was as if a cloud covered the sun, but worse. Light faded, sound and color drained away. A cold, heavy presence passed over the beach, slowing time, dropping the temperature to freezing, and making me feel like life was hopeless. Fighting was useless. The darkness lifted. Ares looked stunned. Police cars were burning behind us. The crowd of spectators had fled. Annabeth and Grover stood on the beach in shock, watching the water flood back around Ares' feet, his glowing gold ichor dissipating in the tide. Ares lowered his sword. "You have made an enemy, godling," he told me. "You have sealed your fate. Every time you raise your blade in battle, every time you hope for success, you will feel my curse. Beware, Perseus Jackson. Beware." His body began to glow. "Percy," Annabeth shouted, "don't watch!" I turned away as the god Ares revealed his true immortal form. I somehow knew that if I looked, I would disintegrate into ashes. The light died. I looked back. Ares was gone. The tide rolled out to reveal Hades' bronze helm of darkness. I picked it up and walked towards my friends. But before I got there, I heard the flapping of leathery wings. 3 evil-looking grandmothers with lace hats and fiery whips drifted down from the sky and landed in front of me. The middle fury, the one who had been Mrs. Dodd, stepped forward. Her fangs were bare, but for once she didn't look threatening. She looked more disappointed, as if she'd been planning to have me for supper, but she decided I might give her indigestion. "We saw the whole thing," she hissed. "So, it truly was not you." I tossed her the helmet, which she caught in surprise. "Return that to Lord Hades," I said. "Tell him the truth. Tell him to call off the war." She hesitated, then ran a forked tongue over her green, leathery lips. "Live well, Percy Jackson. Become a true hero, because if you do not, if you ever come into my clutches again..." She cackled, savoring the idea. Then she and her sisters rose on their bat's wings, fluttering into the smoke-filled sky, and disappeared. I joined Grover and Annabeth, who were staring at me in amazement. "Percy," Grover said. "That was so incredibly terrifying," said Annabeth. "Cool," Grover corrected. I didn't feel terrified, and I certainly didn't feel cool. I was tired and sore and completely drained of energy. "Do you guys feel that, whatever it is?" I asked. They both nodded uneasily. "Must have been the Furies on overhead," Grover said. But I wasn't so sure. Something had stopped Ares from killing me, and whatever could do that was a lot stronger than the Furies. I looked at Annabeth, and an understanding passed between us. I knew now what was in that pit, what had spoken from the entrance of Tartarus. I reclaimed my backpack from Grover and looked inside. The Master Bolt was still there, such a small thing to almost cause World War III. "We have to go back to New York," I said. "By tonight." "That's impossible," Annabeth said, "unless we..." "Fly," I agreed. She stared at me. "Fly like an airplane, which you were warned never to do, lest Zeus strike you out of the sky, and carrying a weapon that has more destructive powers than a nuclear bomb?" "Yeah," I said, "pretty much exactly like that. Come on." We're on the second to last chapter. I can't believe Ares actually threw hands with a 12-year-old and lost. Alright. I can't believe that I've read a full-ass book in the last week on stream. It's so hot. It's so hot here in Oakland. It's like 90 degrees. It's not 90 degrees. Let me check. It's not 90 degrees, but it feels so hot. Oh shit, it's 88 degrees in Oakland. I hate it here. Just kidding. Are you gonna read the second book? I don't know yet. I feel like I should start playing some video games again on Twitch. Because, kind of what this platform is meant for. Or at least I'll do some more chatting streams. But the last time I chatted in a chapter break, someone said, "Would you shut up already and just read the book?" Misogyny. Men are trash. Yeah. I'm in San Jose and I am burning. I'm so glad. I'm like literally close to the water, so I'm not even experiencing the worst of the worst. It's okay, we bonked them. I love you, Jimena. It's like 15 Celsius here. I don't know how hot that is in Fahrenheit. Damn, it's 21 degrees where I am, and that's hot for us. What is that? Is that like 80 degrees? 95% of men are no. Science tells me that 9 out of 10 men are trash. It's proven. It's proven. Oh, yeah. Daughter of Apollo right here, if that wasn't obvious. I take break. Alright, shall we read again? Men aren't trash, we're trying our best. Hey, you can be trash and still try your best. I'm a woman. And trash. And I'm trying my best. It's okay. It's okay. 93.5 Fahrenheit. Oh, that's so hot. I think the hottest temperature I've ever experienced in the Bay is 110 degrees. And that was summer of 2018. It was the worst. It was not even summer, it was fall, September. Our fall is actually worse in the Bay Area and California, actually, most of the time than it is in summer with temperatures. But we're only at the beginning of summer, and it's already 90 degrees outside, which is concerning. All right. Da, 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 yeah. Chapter 21. I settle my tab. It's funny how humans can wrap their mind around things and fit them into the versions of reality. Chiron had told me that long ago. As usual, I didn't appreciate his wisdom until much later. According to the LA News, the explosion at the Santa Monica beach had been caused when a crazy kidnapper fired a shotgun at a police car. He accidentally hit a gas main that had ruptured during the earthquake. This crazy kidnapper, aka Ares, was the same man who had abducted me and 2 other adolescents in New York, and brought us across country on a 10-day odyssey of terror. Poor little Percy Jackson wasn't an intentional criminal after all. He'd caused a commotion on that Greyhound bus in New Jersey trying to get away from his captor, and afterward, witnesses would even swear that they had seen the leather-clad man on the bus. Why didn't I remember him before? The crazy man had caused the explosion in the St. Louis Arc. After all, no kid could have done that. A concerned waitress in Denver had seen the man threatening his abductees outside her diner, gotten a friend to take a photo, and notified the police. Finally, brave Percy Jackson, I was beginning to like this kid, had stolen a gun from his captor in Los Angeles and battled him shotgun to rifle on the beach. Police had arrived just in time, but in the spectacular explosion, 5 police cars had been destroyed and the captor had fled. No fatalities had occurred. Percy Jackson and his 2 friends were safely in police custody. The reporters fed us this whole story. We just nodded and acted tearful and exhausted, which wasn't hard, and played the victimized kids for the cameras. All I want, I said, choking back my tears, is to see my loving stepfather again. Every time I saw him on TV, calling me a delinquent punk, I knew, somehow, we would be okay. And I knew he'll want to reward each and every person in this beautiful city of Los Angeles with a free major appliance from his store. Here's the phone number. The police and reporters were so moved that they passed around the hat and raised money for 3 tickets on the next plane to New York. I knew there was no choice but to fly. I hoped Zeus would cut me some slack in considering the circumstances, but it was still hard to force myself to board the flight. What a great reader. Thank you, I know. I try. Takeoff was a nightmare. Every spot of turbulence was scarier than a Greek monster. I didn't unclench my hands from the armrests until we touched down safely at LaGuardia. The local press was waiting for us outside security, but we managed to evade them thanks to Annabeth, who lured them away in her invisible Yankees cap, shouting, "They're over there by the frozen yogurt, come on!" then rejoining us at baggage claim. We split up on the taxi cab stand. We split up at the taxicab stand. I told Annabeth and Grover to get back to Half-Blood Hill and let Chiron know what had happened. They protested, and it was hard to let them go after all we'd been through, but I knew I had to do this last part of the quest by myself. If things went wrong, if the gods didn't believe me, I wanted Annabeth and Grover to survive to tell Chiron the truth. I hopped in a taxi and headed to Manhattan. 30 minutes later, I walked into the lobby of the Empire State Building. I must have looked like a homeless kid, with my tattered clothes and my scraped-up face. I hadn't slept at least 24 hours. I went up to the guard at the front desk and said, 600th floor. He was reading a huge book with a picture of a wizard in the front. I wasn't much of a fantasy, but the book must have been good, because the guard took a while to look up. No such floor, kiddo. I need an audience with Zeus. He gave me a vacant smile. Sorry? You heard me. I was about to decide that this guy was just a regular mortal and I'd better run for it before he called the straitjacket patrol, and then he said, no appointment, no audience, kiddo. Lord Zeus doesn't see anyone unannounced. Oh, I think he'll make an exception. I slipped off my backpack and unzipped the top. The guard looked inside of the metal cylinder, not getting what it was for a few seconds, then his face went pale. That isn't... Yes, it is, I promised. You want me to take it out and... No. He scrambled out of his seat, fumbling around his desk for a key card, and then handed it to me. Insert this in the security slot. Make sure nobody else is in the elevator with you. I did as he told me. As soon as the elevator doors closed, I slipped the key into the slot. The card disappeared, and a new button appeared in the console, a red one that said 600. I pressed it and waited. Music played. Raindrops keep falling on my head. Finally. Ding. The door slid open. I stepped out and almost had a heart attack. I was standing on a narrow stone walkway in the middle of the air. Below me was Manhattan, from the height of an airplane. In front of me, white marble steps wound up the spine of a cloud into the sky. My eyes followed the stairway to its end, where my brain could just not accept what I saw. Look again, my brain said. We're looking, my eyes insisted. It's really here. From the top of the clouds rose the decapitated peak of a mountain, its summit covered with snow. Clinging to the mountainside were dozens of multi-leveled palaces, a city of mansions, all with white columned porticos, gilded terraces, and bronze braziers glowing with 1,000 fires. Roads wound crazily up to the peak, where the largest palace gleamed against the snow. Precariously perched gardens bloomed with olive trees and rose bushes. I can make out an open-air market filled with colorful tents, a stone amphitheater built on one side of the mountains, a hippodrome, and a colosseum on the other. It was an ancient Greek city, except it wasn't in ruins. It was new, and clean, and colorful, the way Athens must have looked 2,500 years ago. This place can't be real, I told myself. The tip of a mountain hanging over New York City like a billion-ton asteroid? How could something like that be anchored above the Empire State Building in plain sight out of millions of people's vision and not get noticed? And here it was. Here I was. My trip through Olympus was a daze. I passed through some giggling wood nymphs who threw olives at me from their garden. Hawkers in the market offered to sell me ambrosia on a stick and a new shield and a genuine glitter weave replica of the Golden Fleece as seen on Hephaestus TV. The nine muses were tuning their instruments for a concert in the park when a small crowd gathered, satyrs and naiads and a bunch of good-looking teenagers who might have been minor gods and goddesses. Nobody seemed worried about an impending civil war. In fact, everybody seemed in festive moods. Several of them turned to watch me pass and whispered to themselves. I climbed the main road toward the pegged palace at the peak. It was a reverse copy of the palace of the underworld. There, everything had been black and bronze. Here, everything glittered white and silver. I realized Hades must have built his palace to resemble this one. He wasn't welcomed in Olympus either, except on the winter solstice, so he'd built his own Olympus underground. Despite my bad experience with him, I felt a little sorry for the guy. To be banished from this place seemed really unfair, and it would make anybody bitter. Steps led up to the central courtyard, past the throne room. Room isn't really the right word. The place made Grand Central Station look like a broom closet. Massive columns rose to the dome ceiling, which was gilded with moving constellations. 12 thrones, built for the beings the size of Hades, were arranged in an inverted U, just like the cabins at Camp Half-Blood. An enormous fire crackled in the center hearth pit. The thrones were empty except for two at the end, the head throne on the right and the one to its immediate left. I didn't have to be told who the two gods were that were sitting there, waiting for me to approach. I came towards them, my legs trembling. The gods were in giant human form, as Hades had been, but I could barely look at them without feeling a tingle, as if my body were starting to burn. Zeus, the lord of the gods, wore a dark blue pinstripe suit. He sat on a simple throne of solid platinum. He had a well-trimmed beard, marbled gray and black like a storm cloud. His face was proud and handsome and grim, his eyes rainy gray. As I got nearer to him, the air crackled and smelled of ozone. The god sitting next to him was his brother. Without a doubt, he was dressed very differently. He reminded me of a beachcomber from Key West. He wore leather sandals, khaki Bermuda shorts, and a Tommy Bahama shirt with coconut and parrots all over it. His skin was deeply tanned, his hands scarred like an old-time fisherman's. His hair was black like mine. His face had the same brooding look that had always gotten me branded a rebel. But his eyes, sea green, like mine, were surrounded by sun crinkles that told me he smiled a lot too. Aww. His throne was a deep-sea fisherman's chair. It was a simple swiveling kind, with a black leather seat and a built-in holster for fishing pole. Instead of a pole, the holster held a bronze trident, flickering with green light around the tips. The gods weren't moving or speaking, but there was a tension in the air, as if they'd just finished an argument. I approached the fisherman's throne and knelt at his feet. Father. I dared not look up. My heart was racing. I could feel the energy emanating from the two gods. If I said anything wrong, I had no doubt they would blast me into the dust. To my left, Zeus spoke. Should you not address the master of this house first, boy? I kept my head down and waited. Peace, brother, Poseidon said. His voice stirred my oldest memory, the warm glow I remembered as a baby, the sensation of this god's hand on my forehead. The boy defers to his father. This is only right. Why do I imagine he sounds like a skater dude? Oh my gosh. You still claim him then, Zeus said, menacingly. You claim this child whom you sired against our sacred oath? I have to admit my wrongdoing, Poseidon said. Now, I would hear him speak. Wrongdoing. A lump welled up in my throat. Was that all I was? A wrongdoing? The result of a god's mistake? I've spared him once already, Zeus grumbled, daring to fly through my domain. Pah! I should have blasted him out of the sky for his impudence. And the risk destroying your own master bolt? Poseidon asked calmly. Let's hear him out, brother. I think he just sounds like a stoner. Zeus grumbled some more. I shall listen. He decided, then I shall make up my mind whether or not to cast this boy down from Olympus. Perseus, Poseidon said, look at me. I did, and I wasn't sure what I saw in his face. There was no clear sign of love or approval, nothing to encourage me. It was like looking at the ocean. Some days you could tell what mood it was in. Most days, though, it was unreadable, mysterious. I got the feeling Poseidon really didn't know what to think of me. He didn't know whether he was happy to have me as a son or not. In a strange way, I was glad that Poseidon was so distant. If he tried to apologize or told me he loved me or even smiled, it would have felt fake. Like a human dad, making some lame excuse for not being around. I could live with that. After all, I wasn't sure about him yet either. Address Lord Zeus, boy, Poseidon told me. Tell him your story. So I told Zeus everything, just as it happened. I took out the metal cylinder, which began sparking at the sky god's presence, and laid it at his feet. There was a long silence, broken only by the crackle of the hearth fire. Zeus opened his palm. The lightning bolt flew into it. As he closed his fist, the metallic point flared with electricity, until he was holding what looked more like a classic thunderbolt, a 20-foot javelin of arcing, hissing energy that made the hairs on my scalp rise. I sense the boy tells the truth, Zeus muttered. But that Ares would do such a thing. It is most unlike him. He is proud and impulsive, Poseidon said. It runs in the family. Lord, I asked. They both said, yes. Ares didn't act alone. Someone else, something else, came up with the idea. I described my dreams and the feeling I'd had on the beach, the momentary breath of evil that seemed to stop the world and make Ares fall back from killing me. In my dreams, I said, the voice told me to bring the bolt to the underworld. Ares hinted that he'd been having dreams too. I think he was being used, just as I was, to start a war. You're accusing Hades after all, Zeus said. No, I said. I mean, Lord Zeus, I've been in the presence of Hades. This feeling on the beach was different. It was the same thing I got when I got close to the pit. That was the entrance of Tartarus, wasn't it? Something powerful and evil is stirring down there, something even older than the gods. Poseidon and Zeus looked at each other. They had a quick, intense discussion in ancient Greek. I only caught one word. Father. Poseidon made some kind of suggestion, but Zeus cut him off. Poseidon tried to argue. Zeus held up his hand angrily. We will speak of this no more, Zeus said. I must go personally to purify this thunderbolt in the water of Lemnos to remove the human taint from its metal. He rose and looked at me. His expression softened with a fraction of a degree. You have done me a service, boy. Few heroes could have accomplished as much. I had to help, sir. I said, Grover Underwood and Annabeth Chase To show my thanks, I shall spare your life. I do not trust you, Perseus Jackson. I do not like what your arrival means for the future of Olympus, but for the sake of peace in the family, I shall let you live. Thank you, sir. Do not presume to fly again. Do not let me find you here when I return. Otherwise you shall taste this lightning bolt, and it shall be your last sensation. Thunder shook the palace. With a blinding flash of light, Zeus was gone. I was alone in the throne room with my father. Your uncle, Poseidon sighed, has always had a flair for a dramatic exit. I think he would have done well as the god of theater. An uncomfortable silence. Sir, I said, what was in the pit? Poseidon regarded me. Have you not guessed? Kronos, I said, the king of the Titans. Even in the throne room of Olympus, far away from Tartarus, the name Kronos darkened the room, made the hearth fire seem not so quite as warm on my back. Poseidon gripped his trident. In the first war, Percy, Zeus cut our father Kronos into 1,000 pieces, just as Kronos had done with his own father, Ouranos. Zeus cast Kronos' remains into the darkest pit of Tartarus. The Titan army was scattered, their mountain fortresses on Etna destroyed, their monstrous allies driven to the farthest corners of the earth, and yet Titans cannot die, any more than we gods can. Whatever is left of Kronos is still alive in some hideous way, still conscious in his eternal pain, still hungering for power. He's healing, I said. He's coming back. Poseidon shook his head. From time to time, over the eons, Kronos is stirred. He entered men's nightmares and breathes evil thoughts. He wakens restless monsters from the depths, but to suggest he could rise from the pit is another thing. That's what he intends to do, father. That's what he said. Poseidon was silent for a long time. Lord Zeus has closed discussion on this matter. He will not talk of Kronos. You have completed your quest, child. That is all you need to do. But, I stopped myself. Arguing would do no good. It was very possibly anger that the only god who I had on my side. Arguing would do no good. It would very possibly anger the only god I had on my side. As you wish, father. A faint smile played on his lips. Obedience does not come naturally to you, does it? No, sir. I must take some blame for that, I suppose. The sea does not like to be restrained. He rose to his full height and took up his trident. Then he shimmered and became the size of a regular man, standing directly in front of me. You must go, child. But first, know that your mother has returned. I stared at him, completely stunned. My mother? You will find her at home. Hades sent her when you recovered his helm. Even the Lord of Death pays his debt. The Lord of Debt. Even the Lord of Death pays his debts. Fuck. My heart was pounding. I couldn't believe it. Would you? I wanted to ask if Poseidon would come with me to see her, but then I realized that was ridiculous. I imagined loading the god of sea into a taxi and taking him to the Upper East Side. If he wanted to see my mom, all these years, he would have, and there was smelly Gabe to think about. Poseidon's eyes took on a little sadness. When you return home, Percy, you must make an important choice. You will find a package waiting in your room. A package? You will understand when you see it. No one can choose your path, Percy. You must decide. I nodded, though I didn't know what he meant. Your mother is a queen among women, Poseidon said wistfully. I had not met such a mortal woman in 1,000 years. Still, I am sorry you were born, child. I had brought you a hero's fate, and a hero's fate is never happy. It is never anything but tragic. I tried not to feel hurt. Here was my own dad telling me he was sorry I'd been born. I don't mind, father. Not yet, perhaps, he said. Not yet, but it was an unforgivable mistake on my part. I'll leave you then. I bowed awkwardly. I won't bother you again. I was 5 steps away when he called, Perseus. I turned. There was a different light in his eyes, a fiery kind of pride. You did well, Perseus. Do not misunderstand me. Whatever else you do, know that you are mine. You are a true god. You are a true son of the sea god. As I walked back from the city of gods, conversations stopped. The muses paused their concert. People and satyrs and naiads all turned towards me, their faces filled with respect and gratitude as I passed. They knelt, as if I were some kind of hero. 15 minutes later, still in a trance, I was back in the streets of Manhattan. I caught a taxi to my mom's apartment, rang the doorbell, and there she was, my beautiful mother, smelling of peppermint and licorice, the weariness of worry evaporating from her face as soon as she saw me. Percy, oh thank goodness, oh my baby. She crushed the air right out of me. We stood in the hallway as she cried and ran her hands through my hair. I'll admit it, my eyes were a little misty too. I was shaking. I was so relieved to see her. She told me she'd appeared at this apartment that morning, scaring Gabe half out of his wits. She didn't remember anything since the Minotaur and couldn't believe it when Gabe told her I was a wanted criminal, traveling across the country, blowing up national monuments. She'd been going out of her mind with worry all day because she hadn't heard the news. Gabe had forced her to go out into work, saying that she'd had a month's salary to make up and she'd better get started. I swallowed back my anger and told her my story. I tried to make it sound less scary than it had been, but that wasn't easy. I was just getting to the fight with Aries when Gabe's voice interrupted from the living room. "Hey, Sally, that meatloaf done yet or what?" She closed her eyes. "He's going to be happy to see you, Percy. The store got 500,000 phone calls today from Los Angeles. Something about free appliances?" "Oh yeah, that." She managed a weak smile. "Just don't make him angry, all right? Come on." In the month I'd been gone, the apartment had turned into Gabe land. Garbage was ankle deep in the carpet. The sofa had been reupholstered in beer cans. Dirty socks and underwear hung off the lampshades. Gabe and three of his goony friends were playing poker at the table. When Gabe saw me, his cigar dropped out of his mouth. His face got redder than lava. "You got some nerve coming in here, you little punk. I thought the police—" "He's not a fugitive after all," my mom interjected. "Isn't that wonderful, Gabe?" Gabe looked back and forth between us. He didn't seem to think my homecoming was so wonderful. "Bad enough I had to give back your life insurance money, Sally," he growled. "Give me the phone. I'll call the cops." "Gabe, no." He raised his eyebrows. "Did you say no? You think I'm going to put up with this punk again? I can still press charges against him for ruining my Camaro." "But—" He raised his hands. My mother flinched. For the first time I realized something. Gabe had hit my mother. I didn't know when or how much, but I was sure he'd done it. Maybe it had been going on for years when I wasn't around. A balloon of anger started to expand in my chest. I came towards Gabe, instinctively taking my pen out of my pocket. He just laughed. "What, punk? You gonna write on me? You touch me and you're going to jail forever, you understand?" "Hey, Gabe," his friend Eddie interrupted. "He's just a kid." Gabe looked at him resentfully and mimicked in a falsetto voice, "Just a kid." His other friends laughed like idiots. "I'll be nice to you, punk." Gabe showed me his tobacco-stained teeth. "I'll give you 5 minutes to get your stuff and clear out. After that, I call the police." "Gabe," my mother pleaded. "He ran away," Gabe told her. Let him stay gone. I was still itching to uncap Riptide, but even if I did, the blade wouldn't hurt humans, and Gabe, by the loosest definition, was human. My mother took my arm. "Please, Percy, come on, we'll go to your room." I let her pull me away, and my hands were still trembling with rage. My room had been completely filled with Gabe's junk. There were stacks of used car batteries, a rotting bouquet of sympathy flowers with a card from somebody who'd seen his Barbara Walters interview. "Gabe is just upset, honey," my mother told me. "I'll talk to him later. I'm sure it will work out." "Mom, it'll never work out. Not as long as Gabe's here." She wrung her hands nervously. I'll take you to work with me for the rest of the summer. In the fall, maybe there's another boarding school." "Mom," she lowered her eyes. "I'm trying, Percy. I need some time." A package appeared in my bed. At least, I could have sworn it hadn't been there a moment before. It was a battered cardboard box with about the right size to fit a baseball bat. Oh, a basketball. The address on the mailing slip was in my own handwriting. The Gods, Mount Olympus, 600th floor, Empire State Building, New York, New York. With best wishes, Percy Jackson. Over the top in black marker, in a man's clear, bold print, was the address of our apartment and the words, "Return to sender." Suddenly, I understood what Poseidon had told me on Olympus. A package, a decision. Whatever else you do, know that you are mine. You are a true son of the sea god. I looked at my mother. "Mom, do you want Gabe gone?" "Percy, it isn't that simple. Mom, just tell me. That jerk has been hitting you. Do you want him gone or not?" She hesitated, then nodded almost imperceptibly. "Are you ready for this?" "Yes, Percy, I do, and I'm trying to get up my courage to tell him, but you can't do this for me. You can't solve my problems." I looked at the box. I could solve her problems. I wanted to slice that package open, plop it on the poker table, and take out what was inside. I could start my very own statue garden right then and there in the living room. That's what a Greek god would do. A Greek hero would do in the stories. I thought, that's what Gabe deserves. But a hero's story always ends in tragedy. Poseidon had told me. I remembered the underworld. I thought about Gabe's spirit, drifting forever in the fields of asphodel, or condemned to some hideous torture behind the barbed wires in the fields of punishment. An eternal poker game, sitting up to his waist in boiling oil to listen to opera music. Did I have the right to send someone there? Even Gabe? A month ago, I wouldn't have hesitated. Now, I can do it, I told my mom. One look inside this box, and he'll never bother you again. She glanced at the package and seemed to understand immediately. "No, Percy," she said. stepping away. You can't. Poseidon called you a queen, I told her. He said he hadn't met a woman like you in 1,000 years. Her cheeks flushed. Percy, you deserve better than this, Mom. You should go to college, get your degree. You can write your novel, meet a nice guy maybe, live in a nice house. You don't need to protect me anymore by staying with Gabe. Let me get rid of him. She wiped a tear off her cheek. You sound so much like your father, she said. He offered to stop the tide for me once. He offered to build me a palace at the bottom of the sea. He thought he could solve all my problems with the wave of his hand. What's wrong with that? Her multicolored eyes seemed to search inside me. I think you know, Percy. I think you're old enough, like me. I think you're enough like me to understand. If my life was going to mean anything, I have to live it myself. I can't let a god take care of me, or my son. I have to find the courage on my own. Your quest has reminded me of that. We listened to the sound of poker chips and swearing, ESPN from the living room, television. I'll leave the box, I said. If he threatens you? She looked pale, but she nodded. Where will you go, Percy? Half-Blood Hill. For the summer or forever? I guess that depends. We locked eyes, and I sensed that we had an agreement. We would see how things stood at the end of summer. She kissed my forehead. You'll be a hero, Percy. You'll be the greatest of all. I took one last look around my bedroom. I had a feeling I'd never see it again. Then I walked with my mother to the front door. Leaving so soon, punk? Gabe called after me. Good riddance. I had one last twinge of doubt. How could I turn down the perfect chance to take revenge on him? I was leaving here without saving my mother. Hey, Sally, he yelled. What about that meatloaf, huh? A steely look of anger flared in my mother's eyes. I thought just maybe I was leaving her in good hands after all. Her own. The meatloaf is coming right up, darling dear, she told Gabe. Meatloaf surprise. She looked at me and winked. The last thing I saw as the door swung closed was my mother staring at Gabe, as if she were contemplating how he would look as a statue. Oh, yeah! We have one more. Someone did a posture check? Okay. I'm not going to check when things are redeemed during stream if I'm reading, so just be aware. I'm sitting up now, though. I'm going to crack my back. Ooh, that's good. That's the good stuff. Alright, we have one more chapter to go, and then we're already done. Stretch time. Bro, he's literally 12. He had to stop World War III and he's 12. What did I do when I was 12? I don't even think I did anything when I was 12. I don't think I did anything. I'll make some hydrate. Okay, I only have tea with me right now, so I'll drink this. Alright. Everybody buckle up. We are on our last chapter, Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Lightning Thief. Chapter 22. The Prophecy Comes True. We were the first heroes to return alive to Half-Blood Hill since Luke, so of course, everybody treated us as if we'd won some reality TV contest. According to camp tradition, we wore laurel wreaths to a big feast prepared in our honor, then led a procession down to the bonfire, where we got to burn the burial shrouds our cabin had made for us in our absence. Annabeth's shroud was so beautiful, gray silk with embroidered owls. I told her it seemed a shame not to bury her in it. She punched me and told me to shut up. Being the son of Poseidon, I didn't have any cabin inmates, so Ares' cabin had volunteered to make my shroud. They'd taken an old bedsheet and painted us smiley faces with X'd out eyes around the border, and the words "loser" painted really big in the middle. It was fun to burn. As Apollo's cabin led the sing-along and passed out s'mores, I was surrounded by my old Hermes cabin mates, Annabeth's friends from Athena, and Grover's satyr buddies, who were admiring the brand new searcher's license he'd received from the Council of Cloven Elders. The council had called Grover's performance of the quest brave to the point of indigestion, horns and whiskers above anything else we'd seen in the past. The only ones not in the party mood were Clarice and her cabin mates, whose poisonous looks told me they'd never forgive me for disgracing their dad. That was okay with me. Even Dionysus' welcome home speech wasn't enough to dampen my spirits. Yes, so the little brat didn't get himself killed, and now he'll have an even bigger head. Well, huzzah for that. In any other announcements, there will be no canoe races this Saturday. I moved back into the cabin 3, but it didn't feel so lonely anymore. I had my friends to train with during the day. At night, I lay awake and listened to the sea, knowing my father was out there. Maybe he wasn't quite sure about me yet. Maybe he hadn't even wanted me to be born, but he was watching, and so far, he was proud of what I'd done. As for my mother, she had the chance at a new life. Her letter arrived a week after I got back to camp. She told me Gabe had left mysteriously, disappearing off the face of the planet. In fact, she reported him missing to the police, but she had a funny feeling they would never find him. On a completely unrelated subject, she'd sold her first life-size concrete sculpture entitled The Poker Player to a collector through an art gallery in Soho. She'd gotten so much money for it, she put a deposit down on a new apartment and made a payment for her first semester tuition at NYU. The Soho gallery was clamoring for more of her work, which they called a huge step forward in super ugly neorealism. But don't worry, my mom wrote, I'm done with sculpture. I've disposed of that box and the tools you left me. It's time for me to turn to writing. At the bottom she wrote a P.S. Percy, I found a good private school here in the city. I've put a deposit down to hold you a spot in case you enroll for the 7th grade. He literally isn't even, he was in 6th grade? I feel like I fucking learned to tie my shoes when I was 11. God damn. You could live at home. But if you want to go year-round at Half-Blood Hill, I'll understand. I folded the note carefully and set it on my bedside table. Every night before I went to sleep, I read it again and tried to decide how to answer her. He's literally so baby. Bruh. I couldn't even make myself a sandwich when I was 11. Thanks, Mom, by the way. On the 4th of July, the whole camp gathered at the beach for fireworks display by Cabin 9. Being Hephaestus' as kids, they weren't going to settle for a few lame red, white, and blue explosions. They'd anchored a barge offshore and loaded it with rockets the size of Patriot missiles. According to Annabeth, who'd seen the show before, the blast would be sequenced so tightly they'd look like frames of animation across the sky. The finale was supposed to be a couple of 100-foot-tall Spartan warriors who would crackle to life above the ocean, fight a battle, then explode into a million colors. As Annabeth and I were spreading a picnic blanket, Grover showed up to tell us goodbye. He was dressed in his usual jeans and t-shirts and sneakers, but in the last few weeks he'd started to look older, almost high school age. His goatee had gotten thicker, he'd put on weight, his horns had grown at least an inch, so now he had to wear his Rasta cap all the time to pass as human. I'm off, he said. I just came to say, well, you know. I tried to feel happy for him. After all, it wasn't every day a satyr got permission to go look for the great god Pan, but it was hard saying goodbye. I'd only known Grover a year, but he was still my oldest friend. Annabeth gave him a hug. She told him to keep his fake feet on. I asked him where he was going to search first. Kind of a secret, he said, looking embarrassed. I wish I could have you guys come with me, but humans and Pan... We understand, Annabeth said. You got enough tin cans for the trip? Yeah. And you remember your reed pipes? Geez, Annabeth, he grumbled. You're like an old mama goat. But he didn't really sound annoyed. He gripped his walking stick and slung a backpack over his shoulder. He looked like any hitchhiker you might see on an American highway, nothing like the little runty boy I used to defend from bullies at Yancey Academy. Well, he said, wish me luck. He gave Annabeth another hug. He clapped me on the shoulder and then headed back through the dunes. Fireworks exploded to life overhead. Hercules killing the Nemean lion, Artemis chasing the boar, George Washington, who, by the way, was son of Athena, crossing the Delaware. Hey, Grover, I called. He turned at the edge of the woods. Wherever you're going, I hope they make good enchiladas. Grover grinned, and then he was gone, the trees closing around him. We'll see him again, Annabeth said. I tried to believe it, the fact that no searcher had ever come back in 2,000 years. Well, I decided not to think about that. Grover would be the first. He had to be. July passed. I spent my days devising new strategies for capture the flag and making alliances with other cabins to keep the banner out of Ares' hands. I got to the top of the climbing wall for the first time without getting scorched by lava. From time to time, I'd walk past the big house, glance up at the attic window, and think about the oracle. I tried to convince myself that its prophecy had come to completion. You shall go west and face the god who has turned. Been there, done that, even though the traitor god had turned out to be Ares rather than Hades. You shall find what was stolen and see it safe returned. Check. One master bolt delivered, one helm of darkness back in Hades' oily head. You shall be betrayed by one who calls you a friend. This line still bothered me. Ares had pretended to be my friend, then betrayed me. That must have been what the oracle meant. And you shall fail to save what mattered most, in the end. I had failed to save my mom, but only because I'd let her save herself, and I knew that was the right thing. So why was I still uneasy? The last night of the summer session came all too quickly. The campers had one last meal together. We burned part of our dinner for the gods. At the bonfire, the senior counselors awarded the end-of-summer beads. I got my own leather necklace, and when I saw the bead for my first summer, I was glad the firelight covered my blushing. The design was pitch black, with a sea green trident shimmering in the center. The choice was unanimous, Luke announced. This bead commemorates the first son of the sea guide at this camp and the quest he undertook into the darkest part of the underworld to stop a war. The entire camp got to their feet and cheered. Even Ares' cabin felt obliged to stand. Athena's cabin steered, and Annabeth to the front so she could share in the applause. I'm not sure I'd ever felt as happy or as sad as I did in that moment. I finally found a family, people who cared about me and thought I'd done something right. And in the morning, most of them would be leaving for the year. The next morning, I found a form letter on my bedside table. I knew Dionysus must have filled it out because he stubbornly insisted on getting my name wrong. Dear Peter Johnson, if you intend to stay at Camp Half-Blood year-round, you must inform the big house by noon today. If you do not announce your intentions, we will assume you have vacated your cabin or died a horrible death. Cleaning harpies will begin work at sundown. They will be authorized to eat any unregistered campers. All personal articles left behind will be incinerated in the lava pit. Have a nice day, Mr. D. Dionysus, Camp Director, Olympian Council number 12. That's another thing about ADHD. Deadlines just aren't real to me until I'm staring one in the face. Summer was over, and I still hadn't answered my mom or the camp about whether I'd be staying. Now I only had a few hours to decide. The decision should have been easy. 9 months of hero training or 9 months of sitting in a classroom. Duh. There was my mom to consider. For the first time, I had the chance to live with her for a whole year without Gabe. I had a chance to be at home and knock around the city on my free time. I remembered what Annabeth had said so long ago on our quest. The real world is where monsters are. That's where you learn whether you're good or not. I thought about the fate of Talia, daughter of Zeus. I wondered how many monsters would attack me if I left Half-Blood Hill. If I stayed in one place for a whole school year, without Chiron or my friends around to help me, would my mother and I even survive till the next summer? That was assuming the spelling tests and 5-paragraph essays didn't kill me. I decided I'd go down to the arena and do some sword practice. Maybe that would clear my head. The campgrounds were mostly deserted, shimmering in the August heat. All campers were in their cabins, packing up or running around with brooms and mops, getting ready for their final inspection. Argus was helping some of the Aphrodite kids haul their Gucci suitcases and makeup kits over the hill. Okay, we can confirm now that every single Aphrodite kid is a beauty influencer on YouTube. We know this fact. It's so obvious. Don't think about leaving yet, I told myself. Just train. I got to the sword fighting arena and found that Luke had the same idea. His gym bag was plopped at the edge of the stage. He was working solo, wailing on battle dummies with the sword I'd never seen before. It must have been a regular steel blade because he was slashing the dummies' heads right off, stabbing through their straw-stuffed guts. His orange counselor shirt was dripping with sweat. His expression was so intense, his life might have really been in danger. I watched fascinated as he disemboweled the whole row of dummies, hacking off limbs and basically reducing them to a pile of straw and armor. They were only dummies, but I couldn't help but feel awed by Luke's skill. The guy was an incredible fighter. It made me wonder how he could possibly fail at his quest. Finally, he saw me and stopped mid-swing. Percy. Sorry, I said, embarrassed. It's okay, he said, lowering his sword. Just doing some last-minute practice. Those dummies won't be bothering anybody anymore. Luke shrugged. We build new ones every summer. Now that his sword wasn't swirling around, I could see something odd about it. The blade was 2 different types of metal, one edge bronze, the other steel. Luke noticed me looking at it. Oh, this? New toy. This is Backbiter. Backbiter? Luke turned the blade and the light so it glinted wickedly. One side is celestial bronze, the other is tempered steel. Works on mortals and immortals, too. I thought about what Chiron had told me when I started my quest, that a hero should never harm mortals unless absolutely necessary. I didn't know they could make weapons like that. They probably can't, Luke agreed. It's one of a kind. He gave me a tiny smile, then slid the sword into his scabbard. Listen, I was gonna come looking for you. What do you say we go down to the woods one last time, looking for something to fight? I don't know why I hesitated. I should have felt relieved that Luke was being so friendly. Ever since I'd gotten back from the quest, he'd been acting a little distant. I was afraid he might resent me for all the attention I'd gotten. You think it's a good idea? I asked. Come on. He rummaged into his gym bag and pulled out a six-pack of Coke. Drinks are on me. I stared at the Cokes, wondering where the heck he'd gotten them. There were no regular mortal sodas at the camp store. No way to smuggle them in unless you talked to a satyr, maybe. Of course, the magic dinner goblets would fill with anything you want, but it just didn't taste the same as real Coke, straight out of the can. Sugar and caffeine. My willpower crumbled. Sure, I decided, why not? We walked down to the woods and kicked around for some kind of monster to fight, but it was too hot. All the monsters with any senses must have taken the siestas in their nice cool caves. We found a shady spot by the creek where I'd broken Clarissa's spear during my first capture the flag game. We sat on a big rock, drank our Cokes, and watched the sunlight in the woods. After a while, Luke said, You miss being on a quest? With monsters attacking me every 3 feet? Are you kidding? Luke raised an eyebrow. Yeah, I miss it, I admitted. You? A shadow passed over his face. I was used to hearing from the girls how good-looking Luke was, but in that moment he looked weary and angry, and not at all handsome. His blonde hair was gray in the sunlight. The scar on his face looked deeper than usual. I can imagine him as an old man. I've lived on Half-Blood Hill year-round since I was 14, he told me. Ever since Talia. Well, I trained and trained and trained. I never got to be a normal teenager out there in the real world. Then they threw me one quest, and when I came back, it was like, okay, ride's over. Have a nice life. He crumpled his Coke can and threw it at the creek, which really shocked me. One of the first things you learn at Camp Half-Blood is don't litter. You'll hear from the nymphs and the naiads. They'll get you even. You'll crawl into bed one night and find your sheets filled with centipedes and mud. The heck with laurel wreaths, Luke said. I'm not going to end up like those dusty trophies in the big house attic. You make it sound like you're leaving. Luke gave me a twisted smile. Oh, I'm leaving all right, Percy. I brought you down here to say goodbye. He snapped his fingers. A small fire burned a hole in the ground at my feet. Out crawled something glistening black, about the size of my hand. A scorpion. I started to go for my pen. I wouldn't, Luke cautioned. Pit scorpions can jump up to 15 feet. Its stinger can pierce right through your clothes. You'll be dead in 60 seconds. Luke, what? Then it hit me. You will be betrayed by one who calls you a friend. You, I said. He stood calmly and brushed off his jeans. The scorpion paid him no attention. It kept its beady black eyes on me, clambering its pincers as it crawled into my shoe. I saw a lot out there in the world, Percy, Luke said. Didn't you feel it? The darkness gathering, the monsters growing stronger. Didn't you realize how useless it all is? All the heroics being pawns of the gods. They should have been overthrown thousands of years ago, but they've hung on, thanks to us half-bloods. I couldn't believe this was happening. Luke, you're talking about our parents, I said. He laughed. That's supposed to make me love them? Their precious Western civilization is a disease, Percy. It's killing the world. The only way to stop it is to burn it to the ground and start over with something more honest. You're as crazy as Ares. His eyes flared. Ares is a fool. He never realized the true master he was serving. If I had time, Percy, I could explain. But I'm afraid you won't live that long. The scorpion crawled onto my pant legs. There had to be a way out of this. I needed time to think. Kronos, I said. That's who you serve. The air got colder. You should be careful with names, Luke warned. Kronos got you to steal the Master Bolt and the helm. He spoke to you in your dreams. Luke's eyes twitched. He spoke to you too, Percy. You should have listened. He's brainwashing you, Luke. You're wrong. He showed me that my talents are being wasted. You know what my quest was 2 years ago, Percy? My father, Hermes, wanted me to steal a golden apple from the garden of Hesperides and return it to Olympus. After all the training I'd done, that was the best he could think up. It's not an easy quest, I said. Hercules did it. Exactly, Luke said. Where's the glory in repeating what others have done? All the gods know how to do is replay their past. My part wasn't in it. The dragon in the garden gave me this. He pointed angrily at a scar. And when I came back, all I got was pity. I wanted to pull Olympus down stone by stone right then, but I bided my time. I began to dream of Kronos. He convinced me to steal something worthwhile, something no hero had ever done or had the courage to take. When we went to that winter solstice field trip, while the other campers were asleep, I snuck into the throne room and took Zeus's master bolt right from his chair. Hades' helm of darkness, too. You wouldn't believe how easy it was. The Olympians are so arrogant. They never dreamed someone would dare steal from them. Their security is horrible. I was halfway across New Jersey before I heard the storms rumbling, and I knew they'd discover my theft. The scorpion was sitting on my knee now, staring at me with its glittering eyes. I tried to keep my voice level. So why didn't you bring the items to Kronos? Luke's smile wavered. I got overconfident. Zeus sent out his sons and daughters to find the stolen bolt. Artemis, Apollo, my father, Hermes. But it was Ares who caught me. I could have beaten him, but I wasn't careful enough. He disarmed me, took the item of power, threatened to return them to Olympus and burn me alive. Then Kronos' voice came to me and told me what to say. I put the idea in Ares' head about a great war between the gods. I said all he had to do was hide the items away for a while and watch the others fight. Ares got a wicked gleam in his eye. I knew he was hooked. He let me go, and I returned to Olympus before anyone noticed my absence. Luke drew his new sword. He ran his thumb down the flat end of the blade, and as if he were hypnotized by its beauty. Afterward, the Lord of the Titans, he pushed me with nightmares. I swore not to fail again, but at Camp Half-Blood in my dreams I was told that a second hero would arrive, one that could be tricked into taking the bolt and the helm, and the rest away from Ares down to Tartarus. You summoned the Hellhound that night in the forest. We had to make Chiron think the camp wasn't safe for you, so we would start you on your quest. We had to confirm his fears that Hades was after you, and it worked. The flying shoes were cursed, I said. They were supposed to drag me in the backpack into Tartarus, and they would have if you were wearing them, but you gave them to the satyr, which wasn't a part of the plan. Grover messes up everything he touches. He even confused the curse. Luke looked down at the scorpion, which was now sitting on my thigh. You should have died in Tartarus, Percy. But don't worry. I'll leave you with my little friend to set things right. Talia gave her life to save you, I said, gritting my teeth. And this is how you repay her? Don't speak of Talia, he shouted. The gods let her die. That is one of the many things they will pay for. You're being used, Luke. You and Ares both. Don't listen to Kronos. I've been used? Luke's voice started turning shrill. Look at yourself. What has your dad ever done for you? Kronos will rise. You've only delayed his plans. He will cast the Olympians into Tartarus and drive humanity back to their caves, all except the strongest, the ones who serve him. Call off the bug, I said. If you're so strong, fight me yourself. Nice try, Percy, Luke smiled. But I'm not Ares. You can't bait me. My lord is waiting, and he's got plenty of quests for me to undertake. Luke, goodbye, Percy. There is a new golden age coming, and you won't be a part of it. He slashed his sword in an arc and disappeared in a ripple of darkness. The scorpion lunged. I swatted it away with my hand and uncapped my sword. The thing jumped at me, and I cut it in half midair. I was about to congratulate myself until I looked down at my hand. My palm had a huge red welt, oozing and smoking with yellow guck. The thing had gotten me after all. My ears pounded, my vision went foggy. The water, I thought, it healed me before. I stumbled to the creek and submerged my hand, but nothing seemed to happen. The poison was too strong. My vision was getting dark, and I could barely stand up. 60 seconds, Luke had told me. I had to get back to camp. If I collapsed here, my body would be dinner for a monster. Nobody would ever know what had happened. My legs felt like lead. My forehead was burning. I stumbled towards the camp, and the nymphs stirred from their trees. Help, I croaked. Please. Two of them took my arms, pulling me along. I remembered making it to the clearing, a counselor shouting for help, a centaur blowing a conch horn. Then everything went black. I woke up with a drinking straw in my mouth. I was sipping something... I was simping. Oh my god. I woke up with a drinking straw in my mouth. I was sipping something that tasted like liquid chocolate chip cookies. Nectar. I opened my eyes. I was propped up in a bed in the sick room of the big house, my right hand bandaged like a club. Argus stood guard in the corner. Annabeth sat next to me, holding my nectar glass and dabbing a washcloth on my forehead. Here we are again, I said. You idiot, Annabeth said, which is how I knew she was overjoyed to see me conscious. You were green and turning gray when we found you. If it weren't for Chiron's healing... Now, Chiron's voice said. Percy's constitution deserves some of the credit. He was sitting near the foot of my bed in human form, which is why I hadn't noticed him yet. His lower half was magically compacted into the wheelchair, his upper half dressed in a coat and tie. He smiled, but his face looked weary and pale, the way it did when he'd been up all night grading Latin papers. How are you feeling? He asked. Like my insides have been frozen and microwaved. Apt, considering that was a pit scorpion venom. Now you must tell me, if you can, exactly what happened. Between the sips of nectar, I told him the story. The room was quiet for a long time. I can't believe that Luke... Annabeth's voice faltered. Her expression turned angry and sad. Yes, I can believe it. May the gods curse him. He was never the same after his quest. This must be reported to the Olympus. Chiron murmured. I will go at once. Luke is out there right now, I said. I have to go after him. Chiron shook his head. No, Percy. The gods. Won't even talk about Kronos, I snapped. Zeus declared the matter closed. Percy, I know this is hard, but you must not rush out for vengeance. You aren't ready. I didn't like it, but part of me suspected Chiron was right. One look at my hand, and I knew I wasn't going to be sword fighting anytime soon. Chiron, your prophecy from the oracle, it was about Kronos, wasn't it? Was I in it? In Annabeth? You've been ordered not to talk about it, haven't you? His eyes were sympathetic. Oh, Percy, it isn't my place. You've been ordered not to talk about it, haven't you? His eyes were sympathetic, but sad. You will be a great hero, child, and I will do the best to prepare you. But if I'm right about the path ahead of you... Thunder boomed overhead, rattling the windows. All right, Chiron shouted. Fine, he sighed in frustration. The gods have their reasons, Percy. Knowing too much of your future is never a good thing. But we can't just sit back and do nothing, I said. We
We'll not sit back, Chiron promised, but you must be careful. Kronos wants you to come unraveled. He wants your life disrupted, your thoughts clouded with fear and anger. Do not give him what he wants. Train patiently. Your time will come. Assuming I live that long. Chiron put his hand on my ankle. You'll have to trust me, Percy. You will live. But first you must decide your path for the coming year. I cannot tell you the right choice. I got the feeling that he had a very definite opinion, and it was taking all his willpower not to advise me. But you must decide whether to stay at Camp Half-Blood year-round or return to the mortal world for 7th grade and be a summer camper. Think on that. You have to decide if you want to go to the 7th grade or not. God, what a decision. I wanted to protest. I wanted to ask him more questions, but his expression told me there would be no more discussion. He had said too much. He had said as much as he could. I'll be back as soon as I can, Chiron promised. Argus will watch over you. He glanced at Annabeth. Oh, and my dear, whenever you're ready, they're here. Who's here? I asked. Nobody answered. Chiron rolled himself out of the room. I heard the wheels of his chair clunk carefully down the front steps, 2 at a time. Annabeth studied the ice in my drink. What's wrong? I asked her. Nothing, she set the glass on the table. I just need your advice about something. You, need anything? I just took your advice about something. You, need anything? Yeah, help me up. I want to go outside. Percy, that isn't a good idea. I slid my legs out of the bed. Annabeth caught me before I could crumple to the floor. A wave of nausea rolled over me. Annabeth said, I told you. I'm fine, I insisted. I didn't want to lie in bed like an invalid when Luke was out there planning to destroy the Western world. I managed to step forward, then another, still leaning heavily on Annabeth. Argus followed us outside, but he kept his distance. By the time we reached the porch, my face was beaded with sweat. My stomach had twisted into knots, but I had managed to make it all the way to the railing. It was dusk. The camp looked completely deserted. The cabins were dark and the volleyball pit silent. No canoes cut the surface of the lake. Beyond the woods was the strawberry fields. The Long Island Sound glittered in the last light of the sun. What are you going to do? Annabeth asked me. I don't know. I told her I got the feeling that Chiron wanted me to stay year-round, to put more individual training time, but I wasn't sure that's what I wanted. I admitted I'd feel bad about leaving her alone, though, with only Clarice for company. Annabeth pursed her lips and said quietly, I'm going home this year, Percy. I stared at her. You mean to your dad's? She pointed towards the crest of Half-Blood Hill. Next to Talia's pine tree, at the very edge of the camp's magical boundaries, a family stood silhouetted, 2 children, a woman, and a tall man with blonde hair. They seemed to be waiting. The man was holding a backpack that looked like the one Annabeth had gotten from Waterland in Denver. I wrote him a letter when we got back, Annabeth said. Just like you suggested, I told him I was sorry. I'd come home for the school year if he still wanted me to. He wrote back immediately. We decided we'd give it another try. That took guts. She pursed her lips. You won't try anything stupid during the school year, will you? At least not without me sending an Iris message? I managed to smile. I won't go looking for trouble. I usually don't have to. When I get back next summer, she said, we'll hunt down Luke. We'll ask for a quest, but if we don't get approval, we'll sneak off and do it anyways. Agreed? Sounds like a plan worthy of Athena. She held out her hand. I shook it. Take care, Seaweed Brain, Annabeth told me. Keep your eyes open. You too, wise girl. I watched her walk up the hill and join her family. She gave her father an awkward hug and looked back at the valley one last time. She touched Talia's pine tree, then allowed herself to be led over the crest and into the mortal world. For the first time at camp, I felt truly alone. I looked out at Long Island Sound and remembered my father saying, "The sea does not like to be restrained." I made my decision. I wondered, if Poseidon was watching, would he approve of my choice? I'll be back next summer, I promised him. I'll survive until then. After all, I am your son. I asked Argus to take me down to cabin 3 so I could pack my bags for home. The end. That, my friends, has been Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Lightning Thief. We did it. We did it, boys. I read a whole ass book on stream. I made you a whole ass audiobook. Woo! Thank you guys so much for listening and letting me read this book. I hope that I can do this more in the future. I will have to double check, but I'm glad that I at least got to do one of these things. I will be back on... Oh, wait, I have to do the quiz. Hold on. 1 second. 1 moment. 1 moment, please. Is there an official quiz? Is this the official quiz? Is this it? Somebody tell me. I don't know the answer. Oh my god, wait, hold on. It's like trying to format it so it looks slightly better, but it's not really working. One moment. Okay, so we're taking this quiz. Sorry, this is like a gross format for it, but it's fine. Quizzes. Where is it? Which demigod are you, or which... Oh my god. Is it which demigod? Somebody come get her, she's dancing like a river. Godly parent. Home. Is it here? Quizzes. Page 2, Maya? There's a page 2. Oh, got it. Okay. Which god are you descended from? Oh, I was literally on this. Okay. Which of these is your favorite color? My favorite color is, out of these ones, pink. Oh, which of the following places do you prefer? Let's go to the beach. Beach? No, not that. I actually hang out at the cemetery the most out of all of these different things, which is surprising, but that's just because I have one near my house. Which is, I know that's pretty edgy. I know, okay, it's just a thing that happens in the Bay Area. You just hang out at cemeteries. I can't explain why, but it does. Okay. Yeah, cemetery. Which of these foods is your go-to? Oh gosh, I actually eat sushi, tuna, just fucking tuna. I had spam musubi today, so I guess rice cake. Which of the following is your favorite pastime? Practicing archery, singing karaoke, exploring a cave, building with Legos, shopping for clothes, singing karaoke. Which of these is your favorite animal? Chihuahua, dolphin, Rottweiler, elephant, owl, deer. Out of these options, elephants. Which kind of music do you like best? New age, classical pop, show tunes, cool jazz, the Grateful Dead, pop. I write that shit, so I have to choose it. Which of these apps would you be most likely to use? Zombie Run, City Planner, Hurricane Tracker, Love Match, Voice Recorder. Which is what is your fatal flaw? I can be moody, I can be arrogant, I can be vain, I can be too proud, I can be selfish. I tend to distrust people. I'm really moody. I think that's probably the answer. I don't know. I don't really trust people that easily either. Actually, not moody. Which is your best quality? I'm an independent worker. I'm creative. I'm a strategic thinker. I'm good at networking. I'm a steadfast friend. I'm a natural leader. I would like to think that I am a natural leader. No! I didn't want this one, but it's probably because I chose pink. That's not what I expected. I don't deserve this. I'm sorry, I hang out in cemeteries. This feels wrong on a lot of levels. I'm not. I can't be Artemis because she's a lesbian and also is never going to marry anybody or have kids, so. Right. I don't redo it. Okay, but I don't. Okay, let me see. I don't know what I was gonna. Let me redo it. Okay, out of these ones, green. Let's go fast. Forest. Okay, maybe not a rice cake then. Let's go with sushi. My favorite pastime will still be singing karaoke. I will still choose an elephant. I will still choose pop. I would probably use voice recorder still. I can be distrustful. I am also creative. Ayo, let's go. Let's go. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for all the bits and the cheers this stream, Riley. Thank you, Zion, for subbing. All right, there we go. This is way better. I'm much happier with this. Good work. Based on your responses, you have been claimed by Apollo. Go ahead and take yourself home at cabin number 7. Train well. Don't forget to brush your teeth occasionally and try not to get sent on a quest. They tend to shorten your lifespan. Your activities director, Chiron. Let's go. I think that I deserve that. That one's better. I like that one better. But let me see. What other quizzes do they have here? Which demigod are you? Okay. Wait, we haven't read these books yet, so I can't necessarily. I don't think that I. Guess the Greek god. Which Greek hero are you? Let's see. What is your preferred mode of transportation? I like to fly. It beats traffic. I take the wind. They let me check my bags for free. My feet, I can get anywhere. Chariot, I like walk, climb. No. I like to wind. Quick, a monster's attacking you. What's your weapon choice? Sword and shield? No. I don't believe in violence. I will use my wit. Bow and arrow, they work best for hunting. Spear. Ha, you insult my strength. I just use my fist, or maybe a club. I don't think I would have to use my brains, which there's not that many of them, but I do believe that would be my best option. What song best describes you? Staying alive, staying alive. Uptown, funk you up, oh, uptown, funk you up. R-E-S-P-C-T, find out what it means to me. You're gonna hear me roar as the eye of the tiger. Respect. What is the most important thing in life? Home and family, compassion, dedication, respect for my boundaries, independence and adventure, victory, home and family. Which word best describes you? Brave, devoted, fierce, dangerous, strong. None of the above? I'm definitely not fierce, not very dangerous, not super strong either, at least physically. Devoted is probably the best one. Which god or goddess do you call on in troubling times? Athena, Eros, forget the gods, I work alone, Apollo. That's my fucking dad. Oh my god. I'm Perseus! Yo, let's go! Take that, 12-year-old Percy Jackson. Ah. Oh my god. I got Athena for mine. Hee love that. I am Perseus Jackson. Kind of epic. Not gonna lie. What other ones do they have here? Oh my goodness. Ooh. Okay, so these are just emoji quizzes. I haven't read the Demigod series, which I feel like I would like to. I might do that. Alright. Quiz, what's your magical object? Alright, here we go. Magical object time. This is the last quiz I'm gonna take. Okay. How would you describe your height? I don't like physical labels. Would you describe your typical level of physical activity? Would you describe your strength? Pathetic weakling? Just necked myself. Would you describe your mental prowess? I feel like I'm cunning. How would you describe your endurance? Long distance yodeler, let's go! Would you describe your battle technique? Prefer playing video games? Yes. Would you prefer your interactions with your peers? I definitely want to fight. I do prefer chocolate chip cookies, but I would fight with comrades. I'm not really a leader in that type of situation. Which of the following monsters would you prefer to face? Would take on a giant. Would take on a minotaur. Would take on a sea serpent. Would take a pass. Not a minotaur. I don't want to do that. I'd probably take on a giant. They made that seem pretty like a troll. Like, you know, I think they made that seem pretty easy. Also, I've done that in Breath of the Wild. I got that. Easy. Which of the following describes your feeling about being at Camp Half-Blood? Getting used to the idea of being demigod, a little afraid of being demigod, think this is all some big mistake, proud to be a demigod. I would be getting used to the idea. Who's your favorite person at Camp Half-Blood? Talia's Pine Tree, Coach Hedge, of course, Chiron, Mr. D. Chiron. You got it. Swooning couch. You may as well just sit this one out. Yeah, that seems about right. I got a couch. Couch gang. Let's go. Couch gang. Yeah, when you're not physically active enough for anything, so they give you a couch. Epic mode. Oh my god. Yeah. Swooning couch. Sweet. Alright. I think I'm gonna say goodbye. And go. mxmtoon couch. New merch idea. I just make a whole ass couch. It's just one couch though, so whoever gets it is the first person to own an mxmtoon branded couch. Last burp for you. Yeah. I think I will go. I will see you guys on Friday though. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I might play Overwatch. Maybe I'll play more quizzes. Like, is that interesting if I just take personality quizzes for 2 hours and call myself out for shit? I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. We shall see. We shall see. Yes. I feel like people are more a fan of content where it's more talking based rather than just screaming. BuzzFeed quizzes. I feel like they're kind of repetitive. You guys are gonna have to link me some quizzes on Twitter or something. I'll do a call out on Twitter or whatever. Do some personality quizzes. I'll see you guys on Friday. Thanks for letting me read all of Percy Jackson. I'm gonna read the rest of the series regardless on my own, but I highly recommend that you guys read the rest if you haven't, and remind yourself of the joys of reading and find a book that you think is just pure fun for you to go back on. So yeah, I'll see you guys. Take care. I'll see you in a couple days. Nico D'Angelo Stan. Yes, Stan Nico. Nico. Unrelated, but you know. Okay. Bye, everybody. Take care. I'll see you soon.